Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1.
Houston, we have a problem.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue.
What you're seeing here is a mirage.
Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1.
Houston, we have a problem.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue.
What you're seeing here is a mirage.
It's time for Iconoclasm, episode number 4. I don't know why that's going off. It'll go off in a second. There we go. That's better. Why is it on loop? I'll never know. Title of tonight's show, by what authority? For episode number 4, I'm trying to fix my lights here. It's not working. I've got a bunch of blue lights, which is causing my face to look orange. Let me make it pink. Man, my thing doesn't work. That's probably why. All right. Good start. Don't know why this remote doesn't work. There we go. Pink. I like it. I like it better. All right. Welcome to the show, everybody. Let's see how it's going to go. Like I said, it's called By What Authority? Because it seems many people out there think that we need one, think that we need some authority, and we do not. So let me see who's here. Let's start out at the YouTube and see if we got anybody here. Oh, we got a whole bunch of people. Welcome to the show, everybody. Nice to have you. Now, let's take a time out and we'll ask for the Christians that are very upset by me, the ones who went over to Austin's show the other day, and I don't know if they didn't think that I would go there or what, but I'm reading the chat and it's like, F Jaron, forget that guy, he's a Satanist, and I think he's an atheist. It's just like bothersome because it's like these are so-called Christians, right? And F Jaron, F this. It's like if one of them acted like a Christian, there might be a small chance that some of us might actually think about that religion, but not when they act like that. Rob Skiba is the only one I ever knew, really, that never pushed it, said things like that. You're going to burn in hell. Austin too. Austin tries to talk me into it a little bit, but that should be expected. But as far as F Jaron and this and that, it's a little strange that you think that you're going to get to heaven and God's going to be just up there just high-fiving you. Oh, way to call people Satanists. Way to call people this. Way to call people that. You guys have been awesome down there. Thanks for promoting my name. Thanks for being an asshole to everybody just in my name. It's so awesome. I don't think that's the way it's going to go. I really don't. So let's talk about by what authority. And what I mean by that is a lot of people want to give the Bible. Well, let me get back to what I was going to say to start. If you are a Christian and you are triggered easily by people who are just discussing a religion that most of us grew up with or were at some point taught, and you go through the whole thing and you have certain beliefs. And then as time goes on, some of those beliefs get exposed as being not true, contradictory. And so at some point you have to make a decision whether you're just going to go with it. I'm going to be with it for the ride. I'm going to go with it, or you're going to buck it. And it's the hardest thing many people have done. Now, on the other end of it is a much better place, a much happier place, because all of a sudden you have this weight lifted off your shoulders, whereas before you felt like you were held down, held back. And really, I look at the Bible that way. I think that it has held back people. I think that people who could have been great, people who could have gone on and made money and left it to their children, people who could have helped the world in many different ways, instead chose to forego their life here on earth in exchange for an eternity in heaven. And I think that Of course, my belief is that now at this point is a deception. But if many of us had to watch our families do that, I don't know about you guys, but one of the reasons that my family has no money is because my family gave basically everything to the church. My grandparents did, my parents did. It was very important to them to give a large amount of money to the church. And Jesus is the one who says, don't store up treasures here on earth, that it's more important to wait until the afterlife, and that's where you'll get your reward. And so when you start to look at these little things, these little tidbits of information, some of them seem like they would be awfully advantageous, or they're really well placed if they are a deception. Otherwise, Jesus said some things that are really strange. Right now, all the families that have money, generational families, are money that is handed down. And it seems like those are evil families, right? It's never like some Christian family, the Rothschilds. No, it's an evil family that's sitting up there with all the money, and they're just laughing their asses off because they've taught you that you shouldn't have money. It's harder to get into heaven if you're rich than it is to get a camel through the eye of the needle. So what does that tell you? What does that tell most people? And this is my problem with it, because in talking to Austin the other night, I was telling him that my issue is that if it was, because originally my thought was, I feel like I'm a better person because I'm Christian. And so it must not be that bad. And then I realized that, wait a second, the world is the way it is because of Christianity. It is the way it is, meaning that we are in dire straits. We have basically, I don't want to say that we've lost, but we've damn near lost a war against evil. Why? Because the book teaches you that it's Satan at the helm. You can't defeat Satan. I mean, he's just going to go run amok. He's just going to do whatever he wants, and he's got all these people working for him. And we're not fighting against, flesh and blood. We're fighting against principalities and powers and spiritualness, and it's spiritual warfare. And people get into this line of thinking, and then they get into the idea of the end of the world is coming. I've had many a Christian tell me they hope the end of the world comes. So now we've got people hoping for the end of the world. We've got people thinking they can't beat the evil that's in this world. Why do they feel that way? Because the book taught them. So everybody who's a Christian thinks, well, we can't defeat Satan, but good thing that the Bible tells the future, because if the Bible tells the future, that means that the Christians win, that God's team wins. And so it's just a matter of waiting until the end comes true, and then everything will be fine. Well, here's the problem with that. The problem is that, in my opinion, again, most of this is all my opinion. You should know that by now. In my opinion, it is impossible for God to know the future. Now, we've all been told something different. I get it. Many people are going to be all upset. Oh, I can't believe he would say that. Oh, God has to know the future. No, he doesn't. And let me explain why. Honestly, think about this, guys. And then we'll kick the Christians out. Honestly, if you... What happened? Jaron, you're signed in under the wrong account on you screw? What? What do you mean wrong account? What account do I have besides this one? Wrong account. What do you mean? No, not. I don't know what you're talking about. Jaron, you are signed in under the wrong account on you screw, and that's why you have no playlist. I don't know what to tell you. Anyway, thanks for that. That's good. So, where was I at? You're in my train of thought. Okay, so we've got so what I was saying was you completely threw me. All right. So what I was getting at is, by what authority? I was talking about the fact that so that the fact that the reason the world is the way it is because you've got everybody waiting for Jesus. Okay. And that's a problem, because you've taught the world that they have Satan to go up against. Satan. Oh, now I was getting at. This is what I was getting at. So the problem becomes God having knowledge of the future. Okay. And just hang with me, because I tried to explain this to Austin last night and didn't get anywhere. If you know the future, and I mean every single thing that happens from here on, that it's better that you're dead. You don't exist. It would be the most ridiculous existence, whether it's God or man or anybody, if you knew everything that would happen from here to the end of time. then why exist? It would almost be a punishment. It would be a punishment if you knew. It's like Groundhog's Day. You seen that with Bill Murray? Okay, because he knows everything he knows everything that everybody's going to say. He just gets tired. He becomes lethargic. He's like, ugh. He can do it for about 2 weeks and he's just getting pissed because that would be the worst experience ever. So to think that God, if he knew everything, where is he now? Where would he be? Who cares? He probably went off on some other journey or something because he knows everything that's going to happen here. So to me, the idea that God knows the future is wrong. God, I think, again, my opinion, when he created us, when we became inborn with the Spirit, when we are now animated in this world outside of or inside of time, that the crazy thing about that is that God does not know the future. And why does he know the future? Because it's just like the three-body problem in science. They cannot complete a three-body problem because if you have 3 planets, let's say, or 2 planets and a moon or whatever, as soon as one moves any direction, then the gravitational attractions of all of them change. So there is no equation that could ever properly get all 3 bodies. It's called a three-body problem. Now, I think the same is true for us. The reason God gave us full free will is because if we have free will, then it's impossible to know the future interactions. Now, I know people have this crazy belief because we've all been taught it, but if you really think about it, it's insane to think that God, just because he knows everything, right? Oh, God knows all things. Okay, I'll give you that. But as far as the future, how would that be possible? What do you mean? So he knows decisions that will be made by free will people on Earth? I don't get it. Now, what Austin's trying to say is that, well, he exists outside of time, and since that happens, then he knows everything that happens in time immediately. But again, to know all things, to know what everybody's going to say to somebody. So I think that as soon as God created free will beings, 3 of them, as soon as he creates 3 of them, he no longer has control over the future. Now, let me get something straight. Since God created the earth and created the world in time, from outside of time, he can know the future as far as he knows when this will end. Meaning, again, I keep going to this description here. So if you had a bunch of beings that I created over here, a whole bunch of free will beings, since I'm the creator of that, if they have free will, I cannot know what they're going to do in there. That would be ridiculous. How would I know, since they all have free will, one could go kick the other one hits them with a shovel? How would I know that ahead of time? I don't know that. So they're just playing around down there. Now, as the creator of that group, I could know that on Tuesday, February 27th, I'm going to end my experiment. Okay, so God knows the future as far as that goes, but not as far as what the individuals are doing. So here's the problem. The Bible was written in a way that tells people that we know the ending. So you've now told Christians that the ending is God wins, as if Satan can't read a book. Satan can't look at the Bible and be like, wait, what happens at the end of this? Oh, shit, I lose? Oh, man, what am I doing here? No. Why wouldn't Satan just kill everybody and then go, haha, God, you thought you were going to win according to your Bible, but I just killed everybody. Nope. Satan just does it. We don't even know what he's doing. Where is he right now? Where is he? Not here. Nowhere. So you can start to see the problem here. We've got a world full of people that think God or Jesus or some savior or Muhammad or whoever is going to come and take out all the enemies. It's going to kill all of God's evildoers. But that's not happening. And it hasn't happened in 2,000 years. So to continue to believe that that's coming is a folly. And when you start to look at the things Jesus says, which is like, well, all these scandals must happen. Scandals must take place. So you got Jesus telling people scandals must take place. All right. Jesus saying, well, you're going to hear of wars and rumors of wars. Well, these things must happen. Okay. Now we're going to have to have wars, pestilence, famine. These things must happen. Seems a little bit strange, doesn't it? Who profits off war? Isn't it these elite families? Isn't it how does Satan kill everyone? What do you mean? He can't mess with free will. Satan can't mess with free will? So what do you mean? He came and told Eve to eat an apple. That's not messing with free will? Satan can masquerade as an angel of light. What do you mean, how does Satan kill us? In any way he wants. So you're saying that the Satan, the gods of this world, or the demons, they don't have the ability to touch people on earth? Because no, God the Father is not actually a person. No, God is a spirit. But he can't mess with free will. Okay. So, but when he told Eve that she should go ahead and eat the apple, that she wouldn't die, that's not, thank you, Ashley, appreciate it. Ashley said the bankers. Right. So, but I want to see what Bob was saying here. Bob, finish off with what you said about, you said, why doesn't he just kill us all? How? I don't know. What do you mean? So he can't kill people? Can his demons get into people's souls and animate? So I guess what I'm saying is, so Satan can't touch us. We can only worship him. And then what does he do? How does he reward people? Or is it just lies? Like, for instance, all these people that have their hand over their eye, the one-eyed symbolism, say Rihanna when she gives the Illuminati symbol on the end of this halftime show. What is the point of that? Who is benefiting that? Satan is not? He tempted her. Okay, so Satan can tempt people, but he just can't kill them. Okay, got it. I could be wrong about that. Maybe, hey, I haven't heard any stories of, and again, we talked about it last week, right? How many people in the Bible did Satan kill? 0. How many people did God kill? 3.5 million or so. So, getting back to what I was saying, you have this problem of everybody in the world who's a Christian who thinks that they're already saved for whatever reason. They actually are so bad that they think they can just be assholes to everybody else. They can just call people names, say F this person, F that person. Well, you don't have Jesus as your savior? It's such a joke that this religion has been allowed to go on this long with people acting the way they do. There's no reason why Christians should act that way. It's almost as if they found the religion that lets them be a dick, and they're going to stick to that because I'm going to be a dick, and I want to be able to call people out for their... It's almost like Christianity is the religion that makes you look at other people and ignore what you need to change about yourself, right? So instead of worrying about yourself and changing yourself, if everybody just changed themselves, we'd be fine. But instead, it's got to be, oh, you don't believe in Jesus? Oh, you're going to burn in hell? Oh, that, it's always this. Oh, that's blasphemy. Oh, this, it's you. And it becomes dangerous when people like me come along and I'm saying, I don't want to live by any authority. Why? Because I don't trust men. And this is what God would expect of me. God would expect me to look at the world and make my decisions based on the world that's presented to me. What is presented to me is every single chance man has, man destroys everything. They corrupt things. They confuse things. They lie about history. They lie about science. They lie about math. They lie about religion. They lie about medical. Every single thing is a lie, right? Now, you might say, okay, that's because of Satan or whatever. Great. But God does not expect me to then say, well, out of all these lies, I'm going to believe this book. I'm going to believe in this book simply, even if it has tons of mistakes, tons of errors. Now, I'll tell you what Austin calls it, and then we can kind of go from that point. Austin says that the English version of the Bible is garbage. I would agree with him. So anytime I bring up a verse or something, he always wants me to go to the Hebrew and read the Hebrew. And I told him last night, I said, you do realize that if I had to do that for every verse, I would be here, that would consume the rest of my life. And he said, yeah, we can't do that. We can't do that. I'm like, okay, that's my point, is that I don't think God would require of me. Here's the better way to put it, what I say by what authority. If God wrote the Bible, why would he know that it was going to be changed and not care? Okay. So if he knows the future, which is what Christians believe, if he knows the future, then he wrote the Bible knowing full well that I would get here now and there would be nonsense in here. Austin's excuse for Romans 13 is that, it was written by Paul to people back then. So I said, then what's it doing in Scripture? Oh, yeah, well, we don't really know what, it's Paul's letters. I'm like, yeah, this is the problem, is that if I'm going to believe that it's God's book, then I cannot have such easy questions as to why is there a book in the Bible that says that we're supposed to obey authority, and to go against authority is to go against God? Why wouldn't God take that time to say, unless the authority is oppressive? And then he said, oh, well, if you look in the Hebrew or the Greek, I think the New Testament's Greek. He's like, if you look in the Greek, it's actually not government, it's spiritual leaders. So I'm like, okay, let's go read the verse again. If we read Romans 13 as if it's spiritual leaders, it's saying we need to follow all spiritual leaders because they are put there by God. So I said, what about Benny Hinn? What about Joel Osteen? And he's like, well, no, not them. They're apostate. I'm like, okay, this is the problem. Why wouldn't God write in there, sometimes your high priests are going to be garbage humans, and you should not follow them. Instead, it says all government is placed there by God. To go against the government is to go against God. That's clearly written like the government writes shit. All vaccines are safe and effective. All vaccines are safe and effective. What are you talking about? No, they're not. No, they're not. How do you know what's inside? What am I allergic to it? They're not all safe and effective. Okay. So when people start talking like that, there's a problem. You know who wrote it. Who else would write all authority is placed there by God? To go against the authority is to go against God. They're there to promote the good and to do what's good and to do what's right and to harm those who do bad. And if you do good, they'll smile upon you. And if you do bad, then you better be scared because they're there to get rid of the bad people. Who would write that? Do you think God would? Never. It's that simple. It's that simple. So I wanted to tell the Christians that are still here, it's probably not the best show for you if you're going to get triggered, because here's what's going to happen over the next 2 weeks. This week, I'm going to finish off a couple things, mostly talking about the ways that I can show that I cannot trust this book to be from God. That's going to be this week. Next week, we're going to go one other step. And then after that, I'm going to move on. So even though it's iconoclasm, maybe people want me just to bash Christianity the whole time. I'm not. I think that we need to grow. I think that there are some truths out there that we've been led astray, that we've been led away from. And it's becoming easier to see those now because I see all the deceptions are in place so that you adopt one. They don't care whether I adopt a religion. They don't care if I adopt science. Why? Because both those don't believe in the ultimate truth. So what we need to find are the things that are shunned by both. If science shuns something and religion shuns something, then that is probably where the truth is. Okay? Willie Naney says, clearly all versions are undeniably written by men. Correct. So by what authority means, are you going to trust men? If you watched the debate with Jim Bob and Owen Benjamin, this is Jim Bob's problem, is that he always says, by what authority are you judging the Bible? By what authority are you going to, well, by my own, dude. I don't understand how it could be a more sissy thing to say than by what authority? By what authority are you doing that? But who told you could read the Bible that way? You're going to actually try and decipher that on your own? No. How dare you? I mean, it's so pathetic that anybody would think that God put us here and he's like, well, they better find an authority to tell them what the Bible says. What? What do you mean? Well, you got to go to the church fathers. You got to go to the guys who argued about this stuff. And no, God's not the author of confusion. He's not. And another complaint I get all the time is, Jaron, you say you hate the Bible, you say you hate church, but you keep quoting the Bible. No, you have to realize that I quote the Bible because, number one, if you're Christian, you believe in it. Number two, to show you that it's not impressive to quote the Bible. Stop dropping Bible verses everywhere. It's a joke. What if we drop the Bible verses that say, and then she went about her paramours, and where his ejaculation was his penis was the size of, what is it called? His member was the size of horses and his ejaculate like that of donkeys. Okay. So I don't go drop that quote places because it would be ridiculous, but you can't it's a huge book. So just because you can pick out one line that seems to match what's going on in reality doesn't make it special at all. It's like, oh, well, let every man be a liar and let God be true and every man a liar. Okay, let's let that be true. Then where did God tell you that he wrote a book? If we're going to let God be true and every man be a liar, where did God say, this is my book, I've written it, I've inspired it, I've left it for you people. I'm only going to give it to this one little tribe. They're my chosen people, and then they'll have to spread it to the world rather than just give it to you. I mean, it would make more sense, but I'd rather just do this. It's easier for me. So, you need to tell me that it doesn't make any sense to me. There is nowhere that God has ever said the Bible was written or inspired by him. So if it's not his authority, then we are honestly trusting men. Why would we do that? Jesus was supposedly around the year zero, crucified 33 AD. Great. We know that the Gospels were written 60 years later. Okay. You never would wait 60 years to write about somebody, especially the Messiah, but let's just say we do wait that long. So then you've got all the years after that, the 300, talking about the Council of Nicaea. We can keep moving down the line. Do you know when the oldest manuscript we have is? Okay. So remember, a manuscript is going to be something that's handwritten, the Bible, handwritten in Greek. We have to have a manuscript. We have to have the oldest one we can find. So what do you think the oldest paper document is that is the manuscript for the Bible? And many people get this confused because they think incorrectly about history, about how old books are and things like that. Let me see if we can get an exact, because I was going to say a number, but I think that's the oldest manuscript, period, not the oldest manuscript of the Bible. So let me find out. I think it's going to be around 1100, but we'll see. Let's see here. So the earliest manuscript of the New Testament is a business card size fragment, right? So I mean, again, is that going to be sufficient? No. What is the oldest original manuscript? It's one of the earliest complete manuscripts. It includes the Greek translation of the Hebrew. How old is it? Don't just tell me which one it is. Hold on 1 second. Let me get this for you. Because this is huge. Because again, if we cannot take it back to, oh wow, it's worse than I thought. You got to be kidding me. Let's hope this isn't true. Wait, so here we go. Scroll of Exodus. Okay, where is the original Bible? You look at early biblical manuscripts. You want to see what I'm reading? I guess you probably should. Let's move this over here and get you up there. So you can see I'm not, there we go. This is the, what is that, browser solo? Why is it over there? Hold on, this is not squared up correctly. There's good enough. Okay, so this is the oldest manuscript. So it says a manuscript is a handwritten document. I just said that. The word has its origin in Latin. There are approximately 5,800 Greek manuscripts of the New Testament. In addition, there are 10,000 Latin manuscripts and 9,300 manuscripts in other languages. The New Testament autographa, the manuscripts written by the original authors, are unavailable. But manuscripts have been discovered that are dated as early as the 2nd century. Okay, that's not correct, but we'll keep going. Early manuscripts were written on either parchment, either material made from animal skin, might be lamb, goat, deer, papyrus, a new plant that grows along the banks of the Nile. There are 1,276 New Testament papyri, the earliest copies of portions of the New Testament. Different formats of early scripture: a scroll, a codex, or a palimpsest. What? Palimpsest. Never heard of that. A manuscript page that has been washed off so that it can be reused. Okay, crazy. So the Great Isaiah Scroll is one of the original Dead Sea Scrolls discovered. Now again, the problem with these is that you can't date books. Okay? So you can't say, because all they do is they look at the ink and the paper and the writing type. So we're getting a little bit better here. This is the old. Now it says AD 1008 facsimile. Okay, so again, according to this, even this website, which is obviously pro the Bible, pro the church, they're basically saying there's an Old Testament scroll from 202 BC and then nothing between that and 1008 AD. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. There are copies of copies of copies of copies. But just because I can write a book today and I can write, Jaren's writing this in 2023, but I am copying a version from 1910, which is a copy of the version from 1845, which is a copy of the version from 1675, which is a copy of the version from 1400, which is a copy of the version from 800. I can write that. Can write that if I want. Doesn't make it true. Doesn't make it true. If you were going to fool the world, you would write things in the year 1600 and say, oh, this is a copy of the thing that's a copy from 800, which is a copy from 400, which is a copy from 200 BC. Whatever. You can believe that if you want. Again, you're trusting men. You cannot date books. Okay, you cannot date them. As we go further down here, we see the scroll of Exodus is from 1350 AD. We've got the Great Uncials from, what is this? Manuscripts can be dated by the style of script used, right? So again, to fake it would be incredibly easy. Oh, the style of script is this? Okay. Does anybody know how to write in this style? You do? Okay, come here. We're going to have you cheat this. The earliest New Testament manuscripts were in scripto continuo, a style of writing without spaces in between words. I don't see a date here. We've got here Codex Vaticanus, which is the Book of the Vatican, is one of the earliest complete manuscripts of the Bible. It includes the Greek translation of the Hebrew Scriptures, the Septuagint, as well as the Greek Christian Scriptures, the New Testament. Scholars speculate that the manuscript was written in Egypt, possibly one of the 50 complete Bibles commissioned by Constantine, written on vellum, on calfskin. The codex of the library is at least since 1475. So you'll start to see we've got a huge problem here. That if you just think it's as simple as following Jesus, well, I got to believe in Jesus, I got to believe in... Okay, do you realize that they had 1,000 years to do whatever they wanted and then call it old when they turned over the leaf of the new book, right? They could have changed whatever they want. Oh, this is a copy from 400, which is a copy from 200. We don't even know. We have to trust men. There is no way around that. So when you tell me, let God be true and every man be a liar, then I cannot believe in the Bible. The Bible was 100% written by men, which I don't think anybody argues with. 100%. Now, if you want to say it was inspired, well, you can say that if you want. But guess what? I've read books before that I think were inspired by God. I've heard people talk that I think were inspired by God. We're all inspired by God at some time in our life. It does not give you permission to write a book and force other people to believe in it. It just doesn't. So when you talk about by what authority, I'm going to ask you the same question. By what authority are you going to claim that a man is worthy of listening to and believing in what he says? Because you have to believe in man to believe in the Bible. Now, let me get another point across. If I wanted to just say, well, I'm going to trust the Bible because it's perfect. I might give you something there. I might allow you to get that. If the book was perfect, I would have a hard time having the same argument because you would say, well, Jaron, when has there ever been a book that's survived? When has there ever been a book that's gone through history like this and it's got everything correct and it's everything? Well, certainly isn't this one, right? It's been changed. It's been mistranslated. And Austin's right. When I look at the English translation of this, it is garbage. Where they got the nerve to say some of the things they did, when you go back to the Hebrew and it's totally different. But that being said, did God not know that would happen? Did God not write it or pen it or inspire it and think to himself, it's going to be pretty tough on the people in the year 1900, 2000 when it's been completely changed. It now says dirty things about me, disgusting things about me, makes me out to be some evil person that believes in slavery and believes in these kind of things. Well, I would think God would know that. So I do not think there's any chance that God would ever write a book. Why? Because books can be changed. Words on paper can be mistranslated or what do you call it when you misconstrued, or what do you call that word? Not verify, interpret. So misinterpreted, right? Easily, without a doubt. So to think that we're just going to grant people 1,000 years, whatever happened in that 1,000 years is good with me, is insane to me. And so a lot of people are like, well, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, Jaron. And I'm like, I'm not. I've never said that every word of the Bible is trash. I've said that there's good things in here. How could there not be? There's too many words for there not to be good things in there. You can't write that many bad words. There's not enough. There's going to be good things in here. Why? It also stole from many of the traditions before it. So things that were said like the golden rule, love your enemy, or do to others as you want to be done to yourself. That's been around before Jesus. It wasn't Jesus who came up with that. And so when you're talking about the good things that are in here, some of them are good. I don't disagree with that. And do I think that people can be good and be Christians? Absolutely. Absolutely, 100%. So we're not attacking those people. I'm not attacking anybody, really. What I'm trying to point out to people is why I have to move on from this. And as a flat earther, one of the unfortunate things about that is that I'm constantly asked about God by everybody, or about my beliefs, or do you accept Jesus? Or when I go to conferences, all the Christians have to come up to me and try and convert me or something, right? And it's bothersome because then I have to get into why I don't agree with them. And if I do, this is what it comes out, is that you get into these kind of fractioning of the truth movement, which I hate. I do. But at the same time, I can't do what's called selling your soul. And I know it's the opposite way, because you're like, wait, what, Jaron, you're selling your soul? Yes. To me, the idea of selling your soul is simply where you've taken a buyout in exchange for what's truly inside you, because what's truly inside you is God. What's truly outside of you is the adversary, is Satan, not the being, not the devil, not the one with the horns and the pitchfork, simply the idea of the antithesis of God, the antithesis of God's will, the antithesis of what is good. So if I have a feeling inside me that I feel like I need to get out, and if I took instead to say, you know what, I'd rather have more subs, I'd rather have Christians like me and donate to me, so I'm going to just say that I believe in the Bible and I'm Christian and that's why I'm a flat earther. If I do that, I am selling my soul. I've sold out. And I think many people have done that. In fact, a majority of pastors today have done that. If you look up the average salary of a pastor, it is ridiculous. I don't even know what it would come up. I think they're going to say like 200,000. Average Christian pastor. Remember, these are people of God salary, right? The Bible says don't, so a pastor in California, the average pastor salary in California is 116,000. The range typically falls between 95,000 and 131,000. Let's go to, let's see if that's just a normal church. That's not one of these mega churches. See what we got here. The pastor salary from Zippia, $440,000 a year. The average salary for a pastor, where's that at? In the United States, what? Pastor salary. So like, let's look at like, just people like Joel Osteen, or, what's Joel Osteen's, what do they call that? Net worth. And I have a family member that's a pastor. I bet you if we look up his net worth, it'd be insane. $100 million. Wait, what? Joel Osteen's net worth is $100 million. I mean, again, whatever. So things like that just baffle me. Is that what we have here is like a massive trick. It is a massive trick. It has created the world that we live in, where people think they're doing good by donating to churches. What do the churches do with the money? They pad this guy's house. Okay, that's what's going on. Okay, great. You're doing fantastic. All the things that the Catholic Church does, what a joke. The Catholic Church could feed all the hungry, could home all the house all the homeless. They have more money in paintings in their basement than all the money in the world. In fact, if they let all their paintings out, it would crash the economy. Nobody would even know how to handle it. You can't. How do you have something worth more than all the money that there is? But that's the case. So you have this. Oh, and speaking of that, remember I was talking about the Bible saying all government is placed there by God, and then we go to the Greek and it means all spiritual authority or whatever. So the spiritual authority right now on the earth is the Pope. The Pope is Jesus's vicar on earth. So are we to follow the Pope? Well, no, because the Pope got corrupted. Okay, then did God not realize that? Did God not know that the Pope would eventually become corrupted? I mean, he wrote the Bible as if he knew the end. So I know you might be thinking, well, Jaron, you said that you don't believe God knows the ending. Yeah, well, I don't think he wrote the book. You're missing the point. The point is, if you believe in the book and that God wrote it, then you believe he knows the ending. He has to know. He's telling the future. If he knows the future, then why is it that he let some of these things take place? To me, then it becomes an even bigger problem. Right now, we got to go, okay, then now do I believe in God who knew, like, can you imagine if God knew the future and he made Adam and Eve and knew that every single human after that was going to be subjected to death, misery, destruction, cancer, murder? And he's like, I'm just going to go ahead with it. Okay, well, couldn't you just start it over and maybe try it again, knowing that the future this time is that won't happen? Like, if you know the future and you do something, aren't you responsible for it? Show me where the Bible says obey the Pope. I just told you. Romans 13. Pay attention. Keep up here. Romans 13 says you must obey all authority. All authority is placed there by God. To go against the authority is to go against God. Wake up. Made it very clear. So, according to who? I don't know what he's saying. So, I'm making things clear. Just everybody who's a Christian believes incorrectly about what the Bible says. And because you go to your authorities, as it says here on the screen, for the answers. Well, the authorities that you go to are Christians. Why do you guys get this when it comes to science? You're like, oh, it's peer review is so dumb because of course it's the people who already believe it that are deciding it. Well, what do you think's going on with your religion? Who do you think is sitting around deciding what's going to be canonical, what's not, what's this? It's the people who believe in the religion. You think you have atheists in there deciding what book is going to go in there? No, of course not. Right? So I only care about what's true or not. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. Who gave the Pope authority? Jesus did. Jesus left the church to Peter, who was the first Pope. And every Pope since then is supposedly Jesus on earth. That's how it works. That's Catholicism. So the issue becomes, why as a person on earth would you think, because here's what you have to believe. You have to believe that God left a book here, knowing it would be mistranslated, misconstrued, interpreted, okay, for whatever reason. He also says things like he believes in sacrifice. Obviously, he wants you to sacrifice animals. Now, there's verses in the Bible that say God likes you to behave better than he likes sacrifice. But regardless, he called it the sweet smell of the burning flesh. He demands it as part of a sin offering, an atonement offering, all these different offerings. Then he went and told Abraham to sacrifice his son, which we're supposed to look at as this is some great religious person. Oh, way to go, Abraham. Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you a little story. If God comes to you in your dreams and tells you to kill your child, please call me first so I can call the police and have you arrested. Thank you. Okay? You're not going to kill your child because you have voices in your fucking head. You're not. And we shouldn't celebrate people that do that. I'm up on the mountain, I'm about to kill my son, and then God saved us. If you tell anybody that story, they're always like, yeah, but he didn't do it. God stopped him. Oh, thank God. I mean, what do you mean? That's not cool. So then he has him do a sacrifice. Doesn't happen. But then he sacrifices his own son to himself. So we can see there's a problem here. This is not a normal person. The more and more I read the Bible, the more I come across or I feel that character, whoever that is a psychopath. Pure, unadulterated, 100%, without a doubt, psychopath. And if you are making excuses for that God, you're a psychopath. If you are making excuses no matter what it says, and just, especially the English version, at least Austin doesn't ever try and argue with me about the English version. He'll say, what verse? Let me go look up the Hebrew, and then he'll argue with me about the Hebrew, but he won't try and make excuses for this because this is garbage on purpose. So I just want to read some of these people are going off here. Emperor Constantine, you are making things up. How am I making things up? Besides saying I'm making things up, why don't you say, what am I making up? Emperor Constantine has the authority to give away Jesus' authority. Untrue. When did I say that? Are you talking to me? Oh, maybe they're not talking to me. Sorry. Right, are we supposed to follow the Pope, but we can't because he is a man and don't like Catholicism, so let's be Protestant. What? No. I don't know what that means. If you're just exchanging religions, I'm Protestant, now I'm a Christian, now I'm Baptist, now we're not talking about any of that. We are removing all these idols because they are just that, they're idols. Again, look at the Catholic Church. Can you imagine a more disgusting thing than the Bible itself that you're supposedly basing everything off of, saying, don't call any man your father? Then you create spiritual leader positions and you say, what should we call these priests? Let's call them father. Okay. Let's see, it's going to be Christmas, Jesus' birthday. Let's go get trees from outside and bring them into the house and then adorn them with gold and silver. And then you find the verse in the Bible that says, don't do what the pagans do. Do not put trees inside your house and adorn them with gold and silver. Well, then now, not only do the Christians do that, they do it for Christmas. They do it for Jesus. So all over this place, and there's more than that, don't have idols. Okay, well, what do you mean? God says don't worship anything in heaven or on earth. And then people worship Jesus who's in heaven. What? What do you mean? How would you fall that far from the first commandment? Which is have no other gods but me? Oh, except for Jesus. Well, he is really you, but he's kind of not you. And then they say, well, you have to pray in Jesus' name. Well, why wouldn't you just be able to pray in God's name? Doesn't make any sense. So at least for me and Austin, we get along, we're fine, because he doesn't believe Jesus is God. He believes Jesus is God's son. Well, if Jesus existed, I'll agree. I believe Jesus would be no different than me or you or somebody else, except for he came earliest and he kind of turned a new leaf and taught people a new way. Again, you know my opinion on that. I think that that's part of why they've hidden what he actually said. So, false church, yes. Yes, they are a false church. You mean the Catholic Church? Yes. So the Catholic Church is false. Yes. Get you? Got you there? Absolutely. So what you're saying, though, is you're then saying, well, no, Christianity is real, and I believe in the Bible, and I believe in God and Jesus. Okay. Do you realize that God never came down and handed the book to people and said, here are the books that I want in here? That men sat around a table and decided what books go in and what books don't go out. That isn't authored by God, nor is it inspired by God. Either way, it's not. Okay? So what you have to accept, if you're a Christian, is that you have a majority of your faith depending on the man. So don't leave Bible verses that say, let God be a liar, or let God be true and every man be a liar. If that's the case, then you believe lies as your religion, because God has never told anybody that he wrote this book. So to me, here's what's the easiest thing to figure out. Why would I, a mere mortal, try and make claims about what God did if I don't have proof of it? Why am I going to accept somebody comes and tells me that the creator of all that is killed people, killed children because they called some man bald? I'd be like, bullshit. No, he killed children because the parents worshiped gods other than him. Be like, why? What did the children do? No, he just felt like being a dick to them, I guess. Okay. So the more that you add up these stories that are just terrible, eventually you have to wake up to the fact of, oh, wait a second. These are people telling me that God did these things. I have no proof. None of you have any proof that God ever did a thing. And yet, besides create the world, I'll give you that. There's proof of that. Besides that, give you life. Okay, I'll give you that. I'm talking about besides that, you have no proof. You have no proof he's ever killed a soul. You don't have a proof that he killed somebody in the, because they dropped the Ark of the Covenant. You don't have proof that he killed somebody because they picked up sticks on a Sunday. But you'll go around and you'll argue with me that you do have proof, or you'll say that those things are true. So it's really baffling to me that here's me saying God didn't kill anybody. God is innocent of all that. God is great because God gave us a gift, and you guys are making a catastrophe of it. And here's the ultimate, not really a fear, because again, I don't think it really affects much other than it will be embarrassing. We are very close to losing the war against evil. How does God lose the war? You know how? When people start talking for God and saying, God wrote this book, and God says his son's here, and God says the son's going to come back and save us all, and then people believe it, then you got a problem. Because the more people that you can get to believe this, the more you can set up evil in places and people just let it go. Something that would never happen in a million years. If there was no Christianity, let's say there's none. First of all, nobody would ever come to the conclusion of Jesus or God or any of these things that are in the book. Nobody would come to these conclusions. These were handed to men somehow, right? So if we didn't come to these conclusions on our own, then do you recognize that if Christianity wasn't here, there's no way we would ever let the evil that's here exist? Ever. But we do. Why? Because the church has been in charge the whole time. The church was responsible for the Crusades and the Inquisitions. The church is responsible for sending conquistadors over here to take out the natives and change their religion. It's all a stemming from Abrahamic religions. All of it. And there's a problem with that because a lot of the stories in here came from earlier traditions. They're not originals. The story of Moses has been told before. Oh, the baby, and he gets found in the river, and then they take him to the king, and he becomes one of the king's men. This has all been done before. This is not new. Not new at all. So it's clear that you're believing in men. It's clear that you've adopted men as your faith receptacle or your object of worship. I was getting back to the idols. The Bible says have no idols. And then so what do? They made idols of gold and silver. Go into a Catholic church, there's idols everywhere. Little statue of Mary, of Paul, of Peter, of St. Thomas. They're everywhere. They're all idols. People go into the church, they kneel down and they pray to them. So unfortunately, my opinion is, as I've said before, I think that the whole thing is a Jewish deception. Okay? What I mean by that is that they got to spread the word of YHWH. Here, take this over there to the Americas. Get over there. So people, here comes the Pope and here comes the conquistadors. They come over with the Bible and they got, and the papal bull of whatever it was, 1490 or whatever, tells them that they have permission and the strength of God to come over here and do whatever they wanted. And so you have now people, these are warriors for Christ, right? Look at the Jesuits. Now we have militant, disgusting people on the earth that are doing so in the name of God. And we all just sit around and we let it happen. We just sit around. And I believe that manifesting is true because I believe that we have the God power inside of us. You can create right now if you would just believe you can. This is why maybe the Bible says, Jesus says that we can do greater things than him, because we probably can. We just don't think we can. And this has been done over years and years and years of vaccinations, indoctrinations, fake history, fake Bible, fake words of God. And all it does is it breaks down your connection with the authority, with the creator. And ultimately now we've got evil places, evil people filling the evil positions around the world, and they're coming for their last take. This is what the World Economic Forum is, right? This is what the coming alien deception will be. They are going to try and get everybody into one world government, and then it's going to be slaves for eternity. Good luck in overthrowing a one world government. How would you do that? It'd be difficult enough to overthrow the United States government or the Colombian government, but it's still doable. But when you get into a one world government, you can't really overthrow that, right? How are you going to do that? They have all the military. You can't even overthrow that. So we're letting that happen. I'm going to see if I can find this papal bull of was courtesy to legally obtain Portugal the right to enslave. Oh, okay. So let me just read. This is Papal Bull 1455. Okay. Now, again, I'll just read this quick because I do think most people accept or understand that the Catholic Church should not be in any way trusted or whatever. So let me see if there's an English translation. Okay. English translation. We therefore, weighing all and singular the premises with due meditation, and noting that since we had formerly by other letters of ours granted, among other things, free and ample faculty to the aforesaid King Alfonso, to invade, search out, capture, vanquish, and subdue all Saracens, I don't know how you say the word, and pagans, whatsoever, and other enemies of Christ, wheresoever placed, and possessed by them, and the kingdoms, dukedoms, principalities, dominions, possessions, and all movable and immovable goods whatsoever held and possessed by them, and to reduce their persons to perpetual slavery. Why, in the year 1450, does the head of the church feel the need to say that we can enslave people perpetually? Could it be because there's verses in the Bible that say that that's okay? Could it be that in, what was it? What did we say? Leviticus 25, I believe. Can't remember now off the top of my head. Let's see. It was Leviticus 25. Yes, Leviticus 25, verse 42. Slaves, male and female, you may indeed possess, provided you buy them from among the neighboring nations, and you may also buy them from among the aliens who reside with you, and from their children who are born and reared in your land. Such slaves you may own as chattels, and leave to your sons as their hereditary property, making them perpetual slaves. The meaning of perpetual is forever. Forever slaves. But you shall not lord it harshly over your Israelites, your kinsmen. Okay? So, could it be that, if God allows this, go take slaves from the neighboring nations, and so the Pope's like, yeah, go over there and take them as slaves. They don't believe in Christ. He calls them enemies of Christ when the people in the New World had no idea about Christ. They had no idea. Now, again, you're going to have people now say, oh, no, Christ did talk to the Indians and this. You can believe that if you want. He didn't go everywhere. He just went to like one little group or something. I don't know. Though the papal bull mentions invading and vanquishing African peoples, no European nation was willing or able to put an army in Western Africa until the Portuguese colonization of Angola more than a century later. And even then, Portuguese forces received extensive aid from their armies of Inbagnala, whatever that is. And as the 1455 bull indicates at first, the church officially limited African slave trading to Alfonso of Portugal. Regardless, other European groups soon followed. During the late 15th and 16th century, French and English mariners occasionally attempted to raid or trade with Portuguese settlements and autonomous African communities. And then we've got the War of the Succession. What I was looking for right here, justified the expansion within early Liberian colonies, the acquisition of more African captives and territory. So this is actually one off. This is talking about Africa. I forgot, 1455, they hadn't even discovered the New World. So, but it's the same, we can go find that one. It's the same thing. So here he's authorizing this enslavement of African people because they don't know God, they don't know Jesus, they're Jesus' enemies, I guess. So I'm trying to point out that none of these people are doing anything godly at all. At all. Neither is any of the pastors. Most of them are, watched a video the other day where this pastor is up there and some girl goes up on stage and he's like trying to stop her and she gets up there and says, this guy raped me when I was 16. And it's always these stories where it's like, this man has been standing up on the pulpit preaching the good word of Jesus for the 16 years this girl has been basically crying in a corner because this pastor raped her on the floor of his office. And I'm not saying I'm not saying that, all pastors like that, but it always seems really weird to me that would be the religion of God. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me anymore. And so, how much time we have? Oh, good. We're almost there. So next we're going to take calls. And just so you understand and you don't call asking this question, it's very clear. It should be very clear. My position is simple. That I cannot take the Bible to be the word of God any longer. Or else I must have bad feelings about God. And I don't think God warrants me to have bad feelings about him. So, therefore, I don't. Therefore, I looked for ways where, how could I explain everything that's going on here? Is there a way that's coherent, that makes sense to me? Yeah, there is. Very coherent. That God exists outside of time. Coherent. Great. He wanted to create a world inside of time and one that he could experience. God cannot experience anything outside of his will, meaning God cannot be bad. He cannot do bad things. He's a good, great, benevolent God. So, if he wants to experience those things, he probably thought to himself, hey, take little pieces of myself as God. We can't say he can't do that. That would be limiting him. Take these little pieces of myself and give them to little beings that I create, in the fact that they will have the power of God inside them, not the full power. And again, this is, people get so upset. Well, you're not God. What are you saying? No, you're not listening. You're not listening. We all have little pieces of God inside us. We are not God. We cannot get little pieces of ourselves to other people. We're just human. God put a spirit in us. That's why we live when we sleep. That's why we're able to animate and walk around in a world that's crazy. So once you realize that, you're like, okay, so he created a bunch of free will beings, and now God gets to experience the entirety of human emotions, the entirety of good, bad, up, down, angry, sad, happy, lucky. Every single human emotion that there is, God is experiencing that through us. God doesn't make our decisions. We do. But God has a will, and as long as people follow the will, then God will win in the end. God knows that. However, if we stop following that and we let the evil take over, then God might have to stop it at some point because it gets too, and maybe we're getting near there. I don't know. It's getting disgusting. I don't think that there's any chance that Jesus ever comes out of the sky. Zero chance. Absolutely zero. And so if nobody's coming to save us, then who's responsible for saving us? And the answer is us. We are responsible for ending the evil. And I don't think we need to do it with wars. I don't think we need to do it with guns. I think that we are given the power of God for that reason. This is how easy it is. That even if the entire world, let's say that 9 billion people they all gave up that goodness inside them. They all turned to Satan and they turned away from God. If there was one person left, one person with that God spirit, he could still win that match. That's how powerful God is. That one person could talk to a group of people and get one of them to come on his team. And those two people could talk to two more and get two more. And if they start having positive thoughts, they can change the world. That's how powerful the God energy is. Now, it's equally powerful to the evil ones. Meaning if they can convince you to just sit around and let them do whatever they're doing, let evil be evil, let wicked be wicked, these things must happen, wars must happen, scandals must happen. If they can convince you that what they're doing is just part of the plan, then this is why they play into prophecy. They know that if they let something of prophecy kind of look like it's coming true, that you'll immediately go, oh, the Bible's true. Oh, they were right about I'm backed over here on Jesus and God's side. That's what they want. So don't be surprised when everything they do is to push the Bible further along. If they wanted to get rid of the book, are you telling me you don't think they could get rid of the book? In the year 1700, you don't think that if the governments wanted to get rid of the Bible, they couldn't have got rid of it? Easily. And yet now it's in every drawer of every hotel room, everywhere. Why? Because they want you to read the book. And they don't care if you become like Jesus, a pacifist. Go ahead, hang me on the cross, government. I don't care. I'm not going to do anything about it. That's what they want. That's what they want. They didn't want you to fight back when they said take the vaccine. They wanted you to do what you were told. And if you said ultimately, well, I don't want to take that. Well, they knew that they have the churches under control. Why? Because the churches don't pay taxes. So it's very easy to tell a church guy, hey, Joel Osteen, if you don't promote this, we're going to shut down your church. Ooh, I better, right? I better. So this is the problem. That's the problem. And if we're going to believe in a book, then it better be perfect. It better not advocate for slavery. It better not advocate for the things, Leviticus is horrendous. I mean, the worst book I've ever read. But the Apocalypse, Revelation, has done the most damage of any book in the history of the world. It is absolutely just, why would God write a riddle? Like life isn't hard enough. Oh, by the way, guys, here's a riddle at the end of the book. Figure it out. Figure out what third trumpet is and the fourth trumpet and what does this have? And it's sad. It's sad that we've fallen this far for it. So you're welcome to come on the show. Challenge me on any of these thoughts. If you believe you have the right take on it, please do point it out. I'm just saying that there is no reason to believe that God wrote this book anymore. It doesn't hold any weight to it. It doesn't. And again, like I said, even if prophecies were coming true, like something written in there said in the year 2023, there'll be a meteor that'll hit on February 17th. Even if that said that, and then a meteor came down and hit the earth, we still couldn't believe that it was from God. Because we could also say, well, maybe the elite know how to get up in a plane and drop a bomb on the earth. Could they do that? Yeah. So wouldn't they want to make... So again, the problem becomes there's no way God would expect me to believe this book. That's it. That's where I finally reached it. And I said, okay. And I live my life by that voice inside me. If it doesn't burn when I say something, then I don't feel I'm doing anything wrong. So when I'm talking bad about the book, when I'm talking bad, the only time I've ever felt like that burning about that particular subject was when I started to lean towards atheism. Like I felt like that was wrong. And it is, because it's like, what does God say? No man has excuse, or people, if you just look around the world, it's obvious. It's obvious that this is a created place. Unless you've fallen into the trap of Carl Sagan and science and Neil deGrasse and saying, well, this isn't actually a great place for us to live. There's all kinds of gases that want to kill us. I mean, it's like, okay, but they're not killing you. You're able to live here. But yeah, you guys want to go to Mars. Oh man, I mean, come on, give me a break. So we're going to bring on people onto StreamYard. We already got somebody. Theo Kirkley, welcome to the show. I'm going to put up the phone number.
Jaron.
How are you?
I'm actually kind of riled up, man.
All right, get riled up. Let's go.
Well, and I apologize if I kind of turn into a South Park character, but listen, man. Okay, listen. Like you and your Jeranism, your little religion there, that whole thing,
Well, it's a religion for myself, but anyway, go ahead.
Well, I thought I could join it, and I did until I realized it was the wrong thing, and then I excommunicated myself.
Well, it's not. You can't join the religions. It's not a religion for you. Your religion would be theoism.
Oh,
yes.
Okay,
that'd be yours.
Maybe I was just deluding myself. Anyway, listen.
Yes,
we're not gods, Jaron, and they took our jobs. They took their jobs.
What happened?
I'm saying that we're not God, man.
Okay, I didn't say that we are God. I cannot create the world. I cannot create the universe. I cannot put pieces of myself in you. So I said we are pieces of God. We have pieces of God in us. That's not making us God. I can't do what God can do. I'm a human being. So make sure you get what I said correctly. We are certainly not God. It's in
response.
Well, I'm just gonna say real quick. It seems to me that this happens a lot, to where it's almost like you guys don't listen to what I'm saying. It's like you have a belief in your head of what I'm going to say or that you've heard before, and then I'm always accused of saying I'm not saying those things. So just try and argue my points. I know there's a lot of people out there that think that they're God. I don't think that. I'm saying that I don't think we could even survive if it wasn't for the help of God being in God, and so God being in us. That's what I'm saying. So go ahead.
I think you gotta start my clock, man.
Okay, go ahead. Start.
Maybe take a minute off it. Yeah, I'm being a little bit. I'm joking a little bit, but I think it is an interesting point. So you basically. So we are not God, but we have pieces of God in us. Now, I've heard you say, you can correct me on this, but I've heard you say that we are gods. Is that correct?
No, we're not gods. When I say we are God, what I mean is that God is a spirit, right? And so I don't think God exists somewhere right now other than in every human that there is. That's where God is. That's how God is operating right now in the world. He's not able to do things because he has to do it through us. We are the avatars. We are the physical manifestation of God. No different than Jesus. It's all allegory. Jesus was here as the physical manifestation of God. He's God's son. We are God's son. Jesus came speaking the truth of the Father. We come speaking the truth of the Father. He comes and says, the kingdom of God is inside you. I'm saying the same thing. It's all the same. There's no difference. It's just allegory. There's no physicality here. There's no physical son of the Father who's born of a virgin and all that stuff. I mean, by the way, just to real quick point out, Paul never mentioned the virgin birth. Paul never mentioned a lot of things because he wrote before the Gospels. So then the Gospels came and wrote things, which is just interesting that you would think he would write some of those things. God, he didn't even believe in a physical rising of Jesus. He believed in a spiritual rising of Jesus. But go ahead, and I will stop this for a minute. I know I talked for a minute. Go ahead.
Oh, well, yeah, I guess I've heard otherwise. I mean, this isn't a question that I've had for years. I mean, like I would say in New Age cosmology or New Age thinking, a lot of people do believe that they are gods. And I think Christianity takes a very different tact. And it almost sounds like you're kind of in between a bit.
Always, yeah. I mean, because here's the thing. I do something that many people don't even understand. They don't get it. Is that all my beliefs are from me. That's it. That's simple. My beliefs have come based on my experience, based on what I feel, based on what I think. Now, everybody else wants to tell me what somebody taught them.
Right.
And I'm like, there's no way God put us here
Yeah.
with the intent of simply finding a man and then believing what he says. And I'm not saying you should believe what I'm saying. It's another thing people get confused on. They're like, oh, you say
Right.
don't believe men, and all men lie, but you're saying believe you. No, my point here is to get you to say we shouldn't believe the book. We should recognize that it can't be from God. And I'm not saying we, as in like we have to do this or anything. I'm telling you why. But when people come to me, this is what I say. And so, if people want to believe in God and want to believe in Jesus, I don't mind. It's not like I have a problem with Austin. I have no problem with Austin. But I do have a problem with the Christians that were in his chat the other day saying F Jaron, F this and that. When it's like, okay, I get it, but we can have different beliefs. We can have different beliefs and still get along. Now, in this truther world, for whatever reason, people don't think that anymore. They think if I think that Ashley Babbitt did die and they think that nobody died at the Capitol, that we can't be friends and one of us has to be a shill. It's so stupid. Why would you want to believe all the same things? That's exactly what these religions try and teach you. And then you don't have a mind of your own. If you ask a Christian, like, is Jesus God? Did Jesus rise from the dead? Did he heal the sick? They don't have an answer other than what they've been told and read. That's it.
Yeah. So I actually respect the hell out of the fact that you admit that, or like you're willing to say, okay, this is the way that I think, for lack of a better word, let's call it Jeranism. Okay. These are my beliefs. And I actually believe, like, not everybody is following the same Christian church. Everybody, I mean, look at all the denominations. There's so much nuance in all the beliefs. And when it comes to each individual person, whether people are willing to admit it or not, they actually believe something very unique unto themselves because of the way they think, the way they were brought up,
It's probably true.
and their responses to everything that they've been told throughout their life. So in a way, we all, whether we admit to it or not, have our own religion.
Yes, but I mean, again, all Christians have to believe that Jesus is, well, I guess they don't even, well, that's weird. Doesn't the meaning of Christian mean that Jesus is God? So I wonder if Austin calls himself a Christian, because I think Christian means Jesus is God, or does it just mean Jesus? No.
Well, I guess you'd have to talk about what Christ means.
Anointed?
Yeah, I don't know for sure.
I just want to look up the definition of Christian. I think I'm pretty sure it's that Jesus is God. Relating to or professing Christianity or its teachings. That doesn't help. A person who has received Christian baptism or is a believer in Christianity. That's not a good definition. Christianity is an Abrahamic monotheistic religion based on the life and teachings of Jesus. It's the world's largest and most widespread religion with roughly 2.4, 2.8 billion followers. Okay, well, I don't see anything that really gives a... I guess he would be Christian. He is an Abrahamic believer, and he believes in the teachings of Jesus, just not that he necessarily was God. Christians are people who follow or adhere to Christianity, a monotheistic Abraham. I thought when we were kids, you remember when they told us you can't use the same word in the definition? It's like definition of Christians are people who follow and adhere to Christianity. Thank you. Christianity, let me guess, people that are Christian or belong. Christianity is an Abrahamic monotheistic religion based on the life and teachings of Jesus of Nazareth. It is the world's largest. Its adherents, known as Christians, are estimated to make up a majority of the population of 157 countries, believe that Jesus is the Son of God, whose coming as the Messiah was prophesied in the Hebrew Bible, called the Old Testament, and chronicled in the New Testament. Okay, that makes more sense. So it's a belief that Jesus is the Son of God who came fulfilling the prophecies of the Bible. Okay, that's something that Austin is.
Yeah, I would say very basically, like, it's a good idea to go into, like, what the word Christ means, because there's a lot of interpretation on that itself.
Uh-huh.
Like, Jesus, I would say being born again is Christed. But I probably I'm probably out of time, but I appreciate it, man.
All right, well, thanks for calling in. Call in next week if you want. I appreciate it, though. All right, we got an opening. I'm going to open up the phone lines. I know I put them on there, so people probably don't want to come on here. So let me open the phone lines, and we'll keep it open till 5. I looked up Christ just because I wanted to see. It says the title, also treated as a name given to Jesus. Thank you. An oath used to express irritation, dismay, or surprise. They put the curse word as the definition. What is the meaning by Christ? Anointed one. Yes. Christ comes from the Greek word Christos, meaning anointed one. The word is derived from the Greek verb kreo, meaning to anoint. Okay. So that's kind of answers that question, I think. And again, if a lot of people talk about Christ consciousness, that kind of thing. and it becomes very new agey. I get it. I get why people would think what I'm saying is new agey. I don't look at it that way. I don't think there's anything. I believe in traditional stuff. I believe in traditional marriage. I believe in a lot of traditional things. I believe in a lot of the same beliefs as the Christians do. I simply am not going to profess, number one, Jesus is my savior. Number two, that the book is written or authored or inspired by God. Again, why? I have problems with people who say, by what authority? And then they tell me that we're not allowed to judge God. Like, what do you mean? No, we're not allowed to judge God. He's the creator. You have to do whatever he says. Don't you realize just in what you just said that that would be a test of a creator? If you think that God's up there and like, why would you worship and believe in a psychopath? Again, I don't know why I keep going to this description of my little people over here works really well. Is every time you want to think of God doing something, it's okay to place yourself as God and say, if I had little people here that I created with their own minds and their own, if I did these things and a friend was here, what would they say about me? Right? So to think that the goal here was for people to come here and just worship God. So God created us in order to worship him. Imagine if I did that. Imagine if I did, and especially I'm not even a God. Imagine as a person you did that, you'd be like, this person's a psychopath. So if God does it, he's even more of a psychopath. God, the creator of all, so he can have anything he wants. He can do anything. And yet what he wanted was to create people who he was given a choice. What if I made little people down there? I told you, you came over and saw all these little beings. You're like, what are those? Oh, I made those. They have their own free will. They hang out down there. They're really cool. Why'd you make them, Jaron? Well, what I want them to do is I want them to worship me. And if they do, I'll give them eternity with me. And if they don't, they're going to burn in that flames over there. And you'd be like, what? Why are you doing that? You know, like, what is the point of that? Well, they get a chance to live. And then if they find the truth about me, and you're like, well, how do they find the truth about you? Well, they have to find another man down there, another being who they give authority to. And then they believe what that guy says about me. Well, how does that guy know what to say about you? Well, because he had an authority above him. It's all authority. I mean, eventually you'd be like, you're a psychopath. What are you doing? And if I flooded the whole group because I said, now they're corrupted by Satan, you'd be like, where'd Satan come from? Well, I put him down there. You'd be like, okay, why are you going to flood the humans? Well, because they're corrupted. So we flood them, and then we put Noah and his family back there, and then I put Satan back down there. What would be the first thing you'd say? What are you doing? What do you mean? What? I let those guys live. They're going to be on the boat. Well, why'd you put Satan back down there? I figure he'll behave this time. You know, last time he corrupted the whole world and we had to flood everybody because of it. But this next time he'll figure it out. So again, it's like such a storybook, and it's kind of embarrassing that people believe in it, that people buy into it. Now, I was one of you, so I'm not trying to downgrade people or talk shit about people. I'm just saying when you're outside looking in, you can all of a sudden see things that you couldn't see from in there. We know that that's the case. Why is it that people don't know they have bad breath? Well, because your mouth is right here next to your nose. And so you get used to your own breath. So you don't know if you have bad breath. Somebody else passes in front of you. Holy shit, your breath's terrible. So it's kind of the same idea. Christians can't see when they're within their communities and within their churches and within their people and over at Jim Bob's stream. They don't see that they are living the most ridiculous story of all time, or that they believe the most ridiculous story of all time, because they're all backing each other up. And by what authority is this? And by church fathers this? And what's your presupposition? And mine is Jesus is true and the Bible's true. It's just like, what do you mean? So now our entire lives are based off of a book written by men and declaring it to be true? Can you imagine? Can you imagine? We are humans. We were given the gift of insight and brains that can think complex thoughts. And instead we're like, we're going to base everything on this book. Whatever this says, we're going to operate with. I mean, to me, it's insane. It's like, how did we go so far? And the trick is that we were tricked. That's it. We were tricked on a massive level. And again, why is this surprising when we've learned that we've been lied to about everything? Everything is about power. Everything's about money. Everything's about getting one over on your neighbor. But then they're like, and again, just like I tell people, why would we believe that they lie about everything except for space, the place you can't go? Why would we believe that? And everybody agrees, like, yeah, that's ridiculous. Of course they're lying about space, right? So why would we believe their story about the afterlife? Why would we believe their story about how the earth got here? Why would we believe their story about everything that's in this book? Why would you believe that? Why would we think that they would let this book exist? Like, oh, they're so afraid of God and the Bible and the church, but they just let the Bible go. They let people go to church every week. They don't charge them taxes. We have to be smarter than this. We have to recognize that this is part of the plan, and it has been for a very long time. I'm getting there. Sorry. I'm just going to turn on the phone lines real quick. Call in studio. 1 second, guys. I'll be over there. We want to do my shows. Oops. Is this all being seen? No good. The show, host the show, start the show, start show. Shouldn't be so many buttons. Web host start. Ready. Go.
Ready to connect.
Connect show.
Click connect to show now.
Oh, people are already calling in. All right, good. So we're gonna start over StreamYard.
Welcome, host.
Oh boy, here we
you
go.
are now in the host room and
Party
can
Po, what's
manage
up?
your callers from the Call-in
Well,
Studio web interface.
Actually, I was gonna. This is the one show that actually starts pointing people in the right direction, and they hate you for it.
Yes.
But it's not the Jews, because you got to think about it. In the beginning, the Jews' symbol was the menorah, and that got flipped over pretty much when their entire religion got flipped over to something that is very close to Christianity now. But it's not the Jews that are controlling the show. It's a little higher up than that. And basically, the way I see it, it's just that Satanists gave you their version of the Bible, just basically, made it a little nicer for you, changed the names around. And that's how everybody got stuck with the new religions.
So you're saying that the Old Testament God is Satan?
I'm saying that anything nowadays is basically pointing to Satan. And the most important thing is heaven is down and not up. And that's like the major
I've heard you say
lie.
that before. Where do you get that from? What is your
I
reason for
talked
that?
to a bunch of Satanists and got that. It's not written anywhere. I just basically know enough that if I start a conversation with a Satanist, I can basically hold my own weight throughout the conversation, and they won't ask me to convert in the end. But that's how I got the idea that they're lying about everything in order for you, when you drop dead, to go up to hell and scream in eternal terror because you didn't do anything bad for Satan while you were here. So the only thing that's left is to scream in eternal terror, which is what they are really hoping for the rest of the world, while the master elites that are basically eating kids every day and having sex with them every day, they get what I call the 9th level of hell, which is got air conditioning, and that's where all the cool jobs are. Like basically get like an usher, which is there to dress up as your loved one, and they see it as helping you to go up, because all your life you wanted to go up, so now they're helping you to go up since you want to do it anyways.
right?
And as far as like the playlist, I lost my playlist on YouTube a long time ago, roughly like when you complained.
Wait, what is that talking about?
yours.
What is that talking about? I'm not. I didn't even know what they were talking about.
Oh, no, I lost my music playlist on YouTube.
Oh,
And basically, I just noticed that my browser was signing in under a different account. And then I got my music back. By the way, something you might want to listen to
yes.
is a song on YouTube that says, "This song will bring out the fight in you." That's the actual name of it.
Okay.
And it's a really cool song. But that's pretty much it. That's what I wanted to congratulate you at least on trying to point people in close to the right direction.
Yeah. Well, I think that people all deserve to hear other sides, because I think we were forced into the belief about the globe. Nobody even told us there was another side. So it's good to at least have people, everybody on Earth should have the opportunity to look at flat Earth and then say for themselves, no, I disagree. Or they look at it and they're like, no, I believe in scientists. I believe in men. So this is the same kind of thing, is that there's not a lot of people who think that there is other things besides Christianity and Satanism, or Christianity and atheism, that there is a middle road, people who do believe in a creator, who can even believe, I can even believe Jesus is here. I don't have a problem believing that Jesus came. As far as him walking on water or those kind of things, I don't think that they happen. Why? Because God wouldn't expect them to happen, or wouldn't expect me to believe them. I would think that if I got to heaven and God's like, did you believe that Jesus walked on water? And I'd be like, yes. He'd be like, why? Why would you ever believe that? Well, the book said so. Yeah. Who wrote books? Men. Exactly. Have you ever seen somebody walk on water, Jaron? No, I have not. Why would you believe that? That's what I think the end would be like. Not as far as like, did you believe my son walked on water? I did, because the book told me. Congratulations, this is your way to heaven. That is ridiculous to me. Like, and I wouldn't even worship that God. So now the goal of life is to believe in books that have been written by men that talk about things that we've never seen happen. That can't be celebrated. That can't be rewarded. The thing that I think is going to be rewarded here is, why is that song playing? Oh, I did 3 minutes instead of 4. I lost my train of thought. Anyway, I'm going to let you go. We got more people behind you. Thanks,
No.
Party Put. Kofi, what's up? We'll get to you guys on the phone 1 second. You'll be next. Kofi, go ahead.
Hello?
What up?
Yo, what's happening, bro? Boy, you know what it is? How much time do you give? Only 3 minutes?
4.
4 minutes, okay. Yeah, so it's not enough time, really. I wish I could talk to you in another way.
Well, if there
4
was
minutes is just...
Yeah, if there's people that make a good point or have a good conversation and can kind of make some relevant points.
I just think, I kind of think that maybe, I don't know what to touch on because you say so many things and I've heard so many things and even I miss my train of thought because I try and think of one thing I want to talk about with you.
Right.
And then so many other things go flying past and then I'm just like, oh, damn it, where was I? What did I really want to say?
That's what goes on my head. Welcome to my world.
Yeah, I'm stuck right now because I could, you do a good job, bro. I'll be honest with you, you really do. Right? Like I don't consider myself a Christian because I think when I read the Bible, it says that a Christian is basically someone that follows Christ, someone that's like Christ. That's what Christian means.
Right.
And then Christ is obviously the anointed one.
Right.
So, but I try to follow the scriptures because fundamentally I see that it can definitely, it definitely proves a lot of people's attitudes and actions that people have that is almost not anywhere else written. No, like for instance, do you believe in God, Jared?
Yes.
Well, without the Bible or any type of transcript about God, where would you have gotten your ideas of God? Would you think like if you was just
looking around
in the world?
Around at nature.
I know it's super hypothetical. I know it's hypothetical what I'm going to try and say, but let me just try and say it like this.
Okay.
If you was by yourself and you were sitting down and there was no one around you in the world, it's hard to think that way because it's almost impossible.
It's almost
right?
impossible.
Let's just try and do it.
Okay.
Yeah. Like you're just on your own and then you see everything that surrounds you. Where would you get your idea of God from?
Okay,
and how would you know that your idea of God is the true idea?
Okay, so my opinion of that is that the only way that works is because God put that feeling inside of us. So I believe that every single human being knows that they are created, knows it. Now, some people choose to turn away from that, and so they lose it and they go the other way. But everybody knows that they're created, knows that they're created by God. They don't know what God it is, and so this is why.
Not everyone knows they're created by God because some people believe that they were created by a big fart in the cosmic universe somewhere that was godless.
You're missing the point. Everybody
believe in nobody.
Everybody has at some point in their life known that they are created by God. Now, they're not going to tell you that. An atheist is not going to tell you, "Oh, I used to know I was created by God, but now I know I was created by the Big Bang." They admit that from their story.
I totally understand where you're going with that now. I get that. So we can put that to rest because I agree with you on
so
that.
all people are inborn with the Spirit of God inside them. They all know it from the start.
Absolutely, I agree. Like I always say to people, do you know how you know you're eternal? Because you don't remember not existing. Like that's not that you can't do that. You know what I'm saying to you? The only thing you remember is existing. Like I'm 38 years old, but I don't feel 38.
Right.
I feel everlasting. Like I don't remember not being here. The only memory I have is always existing.
And I'm pretty sure
my flesh has not always existed. My flesh has only existed for 38 years and the 9 months I was in my mom's belly. Right. Other than that, that's my time period.
This is where I'll trip you out. Is that you are God in the way that you have a piece of God, and that's why you are eternal.
But we're not God though. Like say for instance, I get a bottle of water. If I have a bottle and I fill it with ocean water, it's not completely the ocean, is it? No,
Correct.
It's only a little piece of the ocean water in the bottle.
Correct.
So that's how Jesus is kind of thing. Like Jesus is basically in the scriptures. I kind of find it hard to understand certain things in the Bible, but some things I do understand, and I don't even know how it comes to me. Like for instance, some people think that when God says to cut off your right hand or to gouge out your eye, it's actually a literal thing, but it's clearly not. It's basically when you hear about when God talks about right hand and stuff like that in the scriptures, he's talking about authority and power and a position. Like for instance, his name is Jesus. Like Baptist people, for instance, there's a church called Baptist Church. I don't believe in none of those things because none of that's in the Bible. The word Christianity is not in the Bible. The word Baptist Church is not in the Bible. These people have taken it upon themselves.
Jesus isn't. There's no such thing as the letter J.
No, obviously, but
Yeah.
you have to understand that I understand that the English language is a spelling language.
Right.
I,
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
speak that language.
Yeah.
So, but I never chose to speak that language. You know what I'm saying to you? So I was just born in England, and unfortunately I speak English. And I wouldn't even say unfortunately, it's just my position here. That's just the language I speak. I never chose to come to be born in England. So I never had that conscious choice.
Correct.
I don't think that God would have an inspired book that's only written in one language and then have everyone divided, and then we can't actually understand what that book is. We'll have to go and speak and understand that language, you know, the
Yes.
Aramaic language.
But again, remember,
Hebrew language.
people all were starting to have the same language. It was actually God, according to the story in the Bible, that is the one who separated us and gave us different languages. So it's
absolutely, and I will be honest with you. That's some parts of the scriptures that I find hard to understand myself. Like for instance, when you say things like God endorses slavery, I don't see it that way. I see you read that and understand it differently to how I understand it. I don't see that God saying he wants us to be slaves, that he thinks slavery is good. I think that he's basically giving us a understanding about the evidence that slavery will be here, and because of those things, he warns us in ways where he will say things like obey authority. Basically, he's not telling us to obey authority if they go against God. If they go against God, then we don't have to obey the authority.
So why doesn't it say that? Hold on, stop. Why wouldn't God write that? Because you're a human and you're
because I think that when you're spiritually understanding the scriptures, trust me, it's hard for me to explain it because I was totally against the scripture, the Bible, before, completely. And the way and I'll be honest with you, Jaren, I really love your show, bruv.
Yes.
I think that you are, like some things you do, not just you, but I think a lot of things that YouTubers do, I disagree with. Spiritually, I disagree with, like, for instance, I know that everyone has to earn a living. I'm a roofer.
One more minute, because I got people waiting. Just one more minute. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Sorry, one more minute. Yeah, I know it's tough. Like I don't even know where to go now with it. Where I was finishing off. Like I disagree with a lot of things that some people do, but I don't condemn them because I don't think that. I think that, you know, like for instance, your ideas of good and evil, where does that come from? Where does good and evil come from? We can't just have our own ideas of good and evil. Like a pedophile can be a good person.
No, they cannot.
He can be kind to people.
No, they cannot.
Trust me, he can show that. He can show that outside.
Sure, from the outside.
A kind person.
Sure.
You wouldn't know that he was a pedophile.
You wouldn't know
until he was caught.
Correct.
But from the outside, you'd think, Jaren, he was a nice guy.
Yeah, but what difference does that make?
If he played
how does Christianity?
a nice guy,
how does Christianity fix that?
Christianity fixes that when you start to really want to change those sinful ways of yourself.
But that Christianity doesn't bring you that. Christianity tells you that Jesus died for your sins and all you need to do is believe in him. So it doesn't invoke change.
No. That's what false Christians believe. Okay. That's not in the Bible.
Okay.
That's not in the Bible. In the Bible, there's a lot more things that you have to do. In the Bible, it's very specific. It doesn't say just believe. It even says in the Bible, for instance, you can't come to the Lord with faith alone. There has to be action in that faith. So you can't just believe something. Now, say, for instance, people believe in Jesus, but they don't believe in doing what Jesus do.
Right.
That they don't do that. A lot of people go to church, sit down, they got the Bible on their lap, but they're not reading the Bible. They're just listening to a preacher that's a nutter.
And so what does what does Jesus say to do with the evil ones? What does Jesus say to do with our enemies? And what does Jesus say to do with the wicked?
He says to love them. Right. And the reason why he says to love them is because he doesn't want you to transgress and sin because of your hateful natural flesh that's pulling you to want to murder a pedophile. Right. You're going to want to murder a pedophile,
right?
Because he's a nasty man.
Right.
But God don't want you to murder him. Why? Because if you murder that pedophile, now you are falling closer and closer to being just. So like why did God? You're not a molester. But
yeah, but what you're saying doesn't make sense. You're saying things that sound good, but God ordered people to go kill the giants. God ordered the nation of Israel to go kill different nations. So you can't then say, God doesn't want you to kill people. God doesn't want you to touch the pedophile. Yes, he does. Why did he order people to go kill nations? He obviously didn't care about them sinning. He didn't care at all.
Now that part, I'll be honest with you, Jaren. Like I said, I wouldn't say that there's some parts of the Bible where I understand. And when it comes to that part, I would say that that's because it's in the Old Testament. And I believe that a lot of the stuff in the Old Testament is mostly spiritual teachings rather than, and the only way for God to kind of sometimes explain these things is in parables, and I don't really understand exactly why. That's why I am just a person that tries to kind of read the scriptures and try to get an understanding.
So here,
when
can you come on next week?
I would agree.
Come back next Saturday.
Sorry?
Come back next Saturday, but do me one favor. Read the entire book of Leviticus. It's not very long. Read it. And
absolutely. I've read. I'll be honest with you, Jared. I've read so much of the Bible, so I will read that tonight just to go over it again. But
yeah, just read Leviticus and tell me how you can believe that is the creator and that it's a spiritual teaching. It talks about wringing the necks of doves, dripping blood on the altar, sending animals out for sin offerings, killing the animals so that they die.
Yeah, because I know, because that is basically the what it is right. God's trying to kind of take us from the transition of giving a fleshly offering to now giving a spiritual offering.
Well, he did it. That's a terrible job of parenting. Why doesn't one parent teach that way? Why doesn't one parent have their kid go sacrifice cats? Why doesn't any parent in the world say, go sacrifice that cat, put your sins on that, you were late for curfew?
Jared, can I ask you to do one thing? I'm
Sure.
going to do what you asked me to do, right? And I'm going to come for next Saturday because I actually love listening to you. And I'll be honest with you, brother. You know what? Just one more quick thing. I started my journey into truth from just wanting to know things about our natural world. And you are an amazing person able to do that. And I'm going to be honest with you. I feel that sometimes you're slightly being a little bit more tough when it comes to the scriptures. I feel like you're not trying to understand it so much.
No, because I've already gone through it. I've already tried. And all I'm getting
and I understand that.
And all I'm getting from Christians is they always try and make excuses for God, which is disgusting. If I was God and I didn't have anything to do, I didn't kill anybody, I wouldn't want people going around in my name, in Jesus' name, saying, no, God did kill those people. God did want the doves ringed his neck. It's just weird to me. So, but I got to let you go. We got people waiting. Next week, so read that. What do you? Oh wait, wait. You said I was going to do something. Yeah, tell me to do what.
Yeah, what I want you to check, please. What I want you to check is when you whatever you do tonight after you finish doing what you're doing.
Okay.
Look up a preacher for me called Geno Jennings. Just look him up. I don't think that he's anyone super special.
I didn't hear you, Geno.
Geno Jennings.
Okay.
Geno Jennings is a preacher that I came across, and he really is amazing at opening up your understanding about certain scriptures that we may not understand. And I'm not saying again that he's actually the package, the full truth. I don't believe in that sort of thing.
Right.
I struggle with a lot of that. But I'm just saying he's someone that has a lot of understanding about the Bible from what I've seen.
Okay.
From how he preaches. He is a really strong preacher. I've never heard anyone like him. I don't even listen to no preachers, and he's the only person I've ever listened to in my life. Any man.
I'll make a prediction. This is just my prediction about this person because I've got family members that are preachers.
Yes.
That what he does is he takes the very best verses of the Bible and preaches about them and talks about how great God is and how great Jesus is, and it's a
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't.
So he takes the worst verses. All right, then I'll find him. I'll look him up.
I can guarantee you that when you listen to him tonight, you're gonna not have that opinion about what this man.
Okay. Sounds good.
He doesn't do that. He's not a prosperity preacher at all. Not at all.
Okay. Thank you, Kofi. Appreciate it. We'll get to you right next. We're going to go to the phone calls. We've got 937. Sorry for you waiting 12 minutes. How's it going?
Hello, Jaron. Hello, everyone listening. How you doing?
Hola. Doing well. Thank you.
So I just wanted to briefly rant for a minute, if you would allow me.
You may.
In support, Jaron. I was born and raised in the Jehovah's Witness cult, and my whole life I was pretty much taught to never question anything that these religious leaders had to say. The governing body in New York of 8 men, and to never ever listen to what apostates, they called them apostates, had to say. And I remember being a little kid, being so fearful. We'd go to a big convention, there'd be thousands of Jehovah's Witnesses there.
Yes. Sorry, it's and this is a test, only a test. Now back to the Jeranism show. Thank you very much, Charlie. 10 smoothies, Charlie. Awesome. Thank you very much. You make the show worth it. Go ahead.
And I remember seeing some apostates there holding picket signs and yelling stuff, which later in my life, at 29 years old, I finally allowed myself to research what these apostates were saying and then realized that it's a big religious cult. But so the point of all that is, to the Christians out there, ever since then, when realized that that religion is a cult. And I've been shutting my brain off for 29 years of my life to be able to question things myself. And before that, I was a flat earther for like 4 or 5 years. And I was thinking, oh yeah, I'm the flat earther that knows the truth. I'm the flat earth Jehovah's Witness, and I have the answers. Really, you don't have the answers if you're still following that book. If you research the work of Bart Ehrman, Bart EHRMAN, the Bible scholar, he considers himself agnostic atheist or whatever, because, and many other people, they made Swiss cheese out of the Bible. They really did. They went down they poked holes in everything to where you're like, okay, this book's not real. It's not real. It's not reality. Do I believe a worldwide flood happened at one point? Yes, I do. Okay. So maybe.
Me too.
That story happened, but it doesn't mean it went down like that book says it did. So anyway, Christians out there, don't be afraid. I was afraid to look into anything and think for myself my entire life. You just gotta let go. You gotta cool your jets and say, the creator of this world will not be mad at me if I question something.
No, you would think it would be required of you, right? I mean, it would be required that before you believe something, and even the Bible says, leave no stone unturned, prove all things.
Absolutely.
So the truth comes to those who seek it. So if you do believe the Bible, then you should read that and go, all right, I should be allowed. And I had to pray to God. I prayed to God for a year away from the Bible to find the truth. And I said, if you're true, then I'll come back to you. And I did come back to God, but not necessarily the God of the Bible.
Right. When I came out of the cult, I mean, I don't know if you know about Jehovah's Witnesses much, but they practice shunning. I lost my marriage, my wife, my family, my entire community of people that I knew. I was on the verge of suicide, and I prayed out to God, please show me the truth. And guess where I'm at now? I don't believe.
Did Jehovah's Witnesses have a different version of the Bible, or it's the same as the Christians?
It's basically the same version, except they've taken out like 37 scriptures. They've replaced words that they don't like, to make them fit their narrative.
Right.
So, yeah. They've added words to make.
I appreciate you saying that, and I don't want people to take it as I'm trying to take you away from Christianity. All I'm providing you is a reason why I've made the decision I've made, and showing you why I made that decision, and then giving my honest opinion about people who are still adhering to that book, because I don't see a reason other than people have very close ties to it, or maybe they've got some spiritual moment. But again, that is the worst evidence you can give me. Some people will say, oh, well, I had a connection with God when I opened the Bible on this day, or I did. I'm like, okay, I get that. But do you realize that every single culture in the world has the same stories? There's monks up in their monasteries who,
Muhammad,
right? It doesn't matter who you believe in. You can all have spiritual experiences. So just because you had one with God and Jesus doesn't mean anything. And then if we went to Taiwan, we're not going to find very many people who had experiences with Jesus and God because they don't know about him, right? So it's more about your society, your culture, what were you brought up with. If you're Muslim, you're raised Muslim, you're going to have a vision of Muhammad and the jinn, and then you're going to find that God. So it's almost like whoever knew at the very first time, they said, oh, wait a second, all humans have a connection with God. Therefore, to control humans, all we need to do is control their idea about God. And that's what everybody's doing. They're controlling your idea about God, and we can't disagree with that because we all have an opinion of God that came from men. So none of our ideas, except for my own, I mean, I tend to think my ideas about God have come from just me. I don't need the Bible to explain the creator that I believe in. So
in closing, let me just say this real quick. You and Bob, and by the way, I think, do you remember My Perspective?
Rory, yeah.
Arthur?
Rory, right? Yeah.
He's ex-JW too.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Same as me. But anyway, I really appreciate all of you because that's one thing Flat Earth did to break the mind control is when you're battling the mind control and then you actually see the evidence to break it. And that kind of helps you realize you need to really look into things more than what you have been, I guess. And that's what I did for my whole life. After I became a flat earther, I went through the gamut.
Yeah, it's the story most of us tell.
I figured out my religion's a cult. I went through a lot of hardships for it, but I mean, am I happier for it? Yeah, I'd rather not be in a cult my whole life. But I just really appreciate what you early flat earthers did, like 2016, I think I went down that rabbit hole and a bunch of others.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it really helped me out just to break all that brainwashing. And Christians out there, do the same thing. I'm not trying to be, I don't want you all to hate on me too, but send all your hate to Jaron. He can handle it.
All right, I'm letting you go. Thanks for that. Thanks a lot.
All right, thanks.
We've got 847. That was real nice of him. 847, you're on. Oh, you were. There you go. You're on the air.
Hey, Jared.
Hey.
Great show, man. Thanks for tackling multi-generational deceptions. It's not easy, is it?
No.
Your story reminds me a lot of mine. And I remember when I was still in the cult of Christianity and trying to figure out why nothing was adding up after a while, and how the book kept contradicting itself. And I remember also praying. And there's something really unusual that came from that. I at the time I thought I was asking God permission to plumb the depths of the book and everything else. And I was kind of asking permission, like nothing was off limits. I wanted to, test everything basically. Right. And one of the things I did in that prayer, though, I remember I got real specific by not using the name God or in Jesus' name or any of that kind of stuff. I just referred to that being as a creator. I think later on I realized I was probably giving myself permission rather than actually trying to get permission from this being outside of myself. But because, like you said, I think that spark, that God component or that creator component is inside of each and every one of us. And one of the things I had to do as time went on, as I began to realize I could know things and not have to believe things, not have to go outside of myself for all this stuff, is I stopped using the names. And I remember sharing that with some other people that were having a similar journey. And they're like, yeah, that's kind of a technicality. But I realized later on, I don't think it is. And I've stopped using God as the reference for the creator. I try to use creator explicitly, and not as a name, even just as a title,
correct,
or a description of what this entity did. Because for all I know, that creator might be us. I know that sounds weird, but I get this distinct feeling that we were kind of maybe hidden away here. We were supposed to be protected. We were supposed to be safe here. Something crept in, kind of the, maybe like the Garden of Eden allegory, where it started speaking lies. But yeah, I find and that's how I think that's how it's penetrated this safe place for us. Is it's telling lies. And I think some of the most religious people on the planet are actually these evil MFers that are
yeah, it seems like it.
You talk about them all the time. Yeah, I mean these people are clearly worshiping something, and I think that something is probably more of this evil entity, kind of what Christians might call Satan or the devil or whatever. But yeah, I've stopped using all the names, and then I realized there's like 26 names plus. It depends on who you talk to. Maybe 26 plus names for this God entity, whatever that is, in the Bible alone. And I think I think Christians think, oh well, those are all just different names for the same being, and I'm pretty sure they're not. And what that one guy said earlier that called in, that that oftentimes some of these references in the Bible might actually not even be like Lord in all caps and stuff like that. I'm not even sure if that's actually even trying to refer to the Creator. I think it might actually be referring to an evil entity, and I get this distinct impression that it's us against that,
Right.
whatever that is, and I don't know what that is exactly, but I can see its handiwork. I think it's us versus that. I think we have to be. And I know
Right.
this makes
So what you're
people-
saying is like if Satan were the god of this world, right? And then he wrote himself into the Old Testament as God so that people worshiped that evil being there. And then in the end says, oh, and then Jesus came and then let these things happen. Let wicked be wicked. Let evil be evil. Give taxes to who taxes are due. Pay to Caesar what Caesar's. All the things that benefit the elite. And then he tells the story at the end where he gets defeated because Jesus comes back and saves everybody. But what a great deception that would be if he wrote himself as the Old Testament God, did all those things, had the Jews are his chosen people, and that in the end he isn't defeated. He wrote that in the Bible so that we all sit around and let his empire build.
100%. I mean, I think the part that misses the mark in most Christians' minds, and it took me probably 2 or 3 years afterwards to figure it out, but this idea of deferred punishment for the wicked, and also, well, for that matter, deferred reward for the righteous. That's kind of like the fiber that runs through this entire Christian deception, and probably most of the religions, really, if you think about it, at least most of the mainstream ones, Islam or Judaism or whatever. But this idea that all the judgment comes later, how convenient.
Yeah,
for
again.
evil.
Right. Yeah. And the meek will inherit the earth. Okay, well, we have to believe, again, if it was we had audio recordings or something of Jesus, maybe I would feel differently. We don't have anything. So if you're going to believe that we have this gift in heaven coming, or we're going to have eternal life, or all these things, well, just remember that it's men who have told you that, not Jesus.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. I use for people I talk to face to face on these subjects, I use the swampland in Florida reference. I guess I'm probably dating myself with that, but back in the day, they used to try to sell people like, acres down the Everglades where they're going to build a mansion for them or something like that. And it turns out, of course, it was all a sham. But I asked people, I said, have you ever like face to face sat down with this Jesus or this God or any of these people and actually had the dialogue, not monologue? I know you think you're praying to them, and that's wonderful and everything, but have you ever had this dialogue, and have you tested those people with a response? Of course, they don't get a response. They don't seem to care if they get a response. But the point is like, then you're making, basically at that point, you're making blood oath contracts.
Yes.
With you've never seen. Making blood oath contracts with beings you've never seen before, never met with, never. You basically bought swampland in Florida.
Right. Yep. No, it's definitely the truth. That's what I want to point out to people, is that just because, again, when they post those Bible verses, it says, let God be true and every man be a liar. That would be okay to say if you had some proof or some evidence that the book was written by God. If you don't, then you have to recognize that the people wrote that. So if you're saying, let God be true, then you should believe what I do, which is I believe God is true and everybody else is a liar. So that's why I can't believe in the book. So you can't believe in the book and say that because you are believing men. So again, things like that are self-contradictory in the fact. And then, I was asking Austin, like, did Paul know he was writing scripture? Because the excuse is always, well, Paul was just writing letters. Yeah, but it ended up in the Bible. So did Paul know that what he was writing was going to end up in the Bible? And if not, then how is that inspired? It means God told him to write things. So he wrote them, but he didn't know to go into. I mean, it's a very confusing thing when you get into the idea of whether scripture is inspired. What does inspired mean? Again, if you were the seventh king in a row, let's say the first 6 kings all talked to God. They wrote about it. They talked about it. And then you become the king. And then you're like, wait, I don't talk to God. You would make it up. It's the only thing you could do, because you're not going to go out to your people and say, God isn't speaking to me. You're going to have to go out there and do what everybody else has done, which is God told us to go take over this nation, and you do this and we'll do this. So again, it becomes belief in man.
Excellent point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think to just to reconfirm your warning to people, we're running out of time to kind of get our heads out of our butts here. I mean, I think we're really knocking on the door where if this thing goes all digital, cashless, lockdown, all that kind of stuff. And yeah, every Christian I talk to, they say, well, all these things have to happen. And you mentioned that earlier. It's like, you
So
guys don't get it.
disappointing.
That's a script. That's not prophecy. It's a script.
Right.
They wrote out the script for you, so when you saw it happen, you'd be pliable and participating in it and allowing it. And what you're supposed to be doing is stopping it. you
Right.
know?
And what better way to get people to let it go than to pretend like it's part of a story where they can look and find where the story is and go, okay, we still have more time left. Like they all say, well, it's not time for the end yet because the third temple hasn't been built. So why would they build the third temple? If they build the third temple and then nothing happens, now you're going to be like, wait, what? Why didn't the end come? So they're going to always push it out. They're going to always delay it so that you always think it's right around the corner. So you always think it's the end of the earth. And it's just a brilliant move.
Deferred reward for the righteous, deferred punishment for the wicked. They'll play that for as long as they possibly can.
Yep. And then they get to do evil things and kidnap people and And then we just look at it and we go, oh, they're working for Satan and he's tough to beat. So.
Yep. Great
right.
show, man.
Thanks.
Thanks for taking my call. Appreciate it.
We got 301. 301.
Maryland.
Oh, there you go. What's up?
Yeah. I can't win, man. It seems like, I'm trying to find out stuff about flat Earth. I'm down with it, but I'm with flat Earth movement.
Cool.
But, I go to your channel. See, like you're talking against Christianity or whatever religion you want to talk about.
Right.
And I go to other channels and they're talking about religion. Why don't you always talk about flat Earth?
I do, but this is a show that's called Iconoclasm. It's the religious show. All my other shows talk about flat Earth.
One show, but your channel seems to be focusing on flat Earth. Is that not the main focus?
Correct.
What's bringing attention? We have to hear your soul searching. Everyone else is soul searching.
You don't have to hear anything.
No, I don't.
Yeah.
This is part of it when I try to refer people to your channel to learn things and try to convince people about flat Earth. It's not going to persuade them when they're hearing about your soul searching.
I agree.
Or anyone else.
Probably not. No, I agree. But it's not my job to bring people. Go ahead.
Yeah, and look at Muhammad Ali's video where he's holding a glass, cup of water in front. It's in England somewhere, like where he was giving a speech, and he just makes a simple thing. Well, if I told you this was made by itself, you'd call me crazy. All right, so everyone knows there's a creator of something.
Great.
Now, y'all are going to try to say, well, it's not anything that's on this earth. Well, that makes no sense. If you're going to say it's aliens, then you're in another world. What created aliens?
Agree.
You're going to say that's by chance, probably. That's absurd.
Right.
We don't see any aliens. Now you got to look to the things that are on earth that you can see and from history and where we're at today. And you base this on history. You don't have to, you can look on the world and just see how things are like livable for a reason.
Right.
You know there's a creator. Everything is perfect for us to live. Now, you can go keep searching and searching through everyone you want. But we're here in America because we had to fight and get here and do things. And sure, things were bad for some reason. But things change. Just the science changes. I'm not talking about the line.
You know that the people who started this country tried to get away from the church.
Sorry?
The people who started this country tried to get away from Christianity and the stronghold it had on countries and the people in the East.
That's your interpretation. You can say try. It's not that hard for them to try. They got away from England.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They had to. That's
So
what
why
they did.
didn't they get away from religion?
They did. They didn't come over here with religion. Religion was brought over after.
No. What are you saying? They tried to get away from.
They got away from the religious beliefs of the East, and they came to the United States with a kind of a deist opinion.
No, that's your interpretation. There's different.
Pretty sure you can look up. Okay.
Christianity. You're talking about you were raised in a Jesuit, school, Catholic school.
High school, yes.
Different types of Catholics, I guess, and people. The Jesuit Catholics are responsible for a lot of the problems. There's different denominations that.
Well, there's not. Hold on. There's not Jesuit Catholics, by the way. Jesuits are priests. So there's no Jesuit Catholics. There's just Jesuits, which are a certain order of priest.
Okay, well, however you want to say.
Okay.
Okay. So then everyone hates the Catholics. I guess what you want to say. I don't know, but I'm saying there's different denominations that clash with each other because they have different interpretations of things.
Right.
That's human beings.
Right, and it's words on paper, right? Words on paper are always going to be able to be misconstrued or mistranslated. If I wrote a poem or if I write a story and then I give it out to 20 people and I say, write me a summary of what's the most important thing about the story, it's going to be 20 different answers.
Yes, by man.
Yeah.
There's still some meaning behind that was meant to be given to us. And it's just interpretations and how things happen. Now, this person who was, well, I can't even get into the previous call. I'm not going to go into the previous calls, but I'll just leave it at that. Just try to stick with the show. I mean, it's kind of hard to refer people to you. I already bought your hat. I wish you put a red cross against the NASA, because everyone thinks I'm wearing a NASA hat. So I'll do it myself. But anyway, it's like you got to focus on the one topic, man, and have it organized on the channel. You can say, you can do whatever you want, but I can't refer to you then.
I got you.
Because people are going to say, I don't want to hear about this guy soul searching.
I get you. But if you want to channel just flat Earth stuff, you should make a channel.
I don't have to. I expect you or somebody else who wants to.
Oh, thank you. Okay. All right. Thank you. I appreciate it. I will. I'll take it into advisement. Like I said.
Why should I focus on it? That's what you chose to do.
What?
That's what you chose to do. Have a separate channel talking about soul search.
Okay. That's a good idea.
You're the one who chose flat Earth to focus on. It's self-thing.
Yeah, if I was focusing on flat Earth, but I'm now choosing this. So what? So that's wrong?
We're going to have a separate channel for that.
Okay, gotcha.
Get y'all.
All right, get you. Later. So some people are very upset about what I do on my channel. I get it. Let's see if there's anybody waiting over here at StreamYard. Yep, we got Sacred Knowledge. What's up?
Yo. Can you hear me?
Yes.
How you doing?
Good.
That guy's crazy. Because you're dynamic. So how are you gonna try to hold a brother back from trying to do different things? It's crazy. That's my opinion on it. Because like flat Earth can get boring after a while too. Like we already know the Earth is flat. Why can't you be dynamic and check out different topics? I don't understand.
Right. Some people want to stick there. Some people feel like they have a greater calling.
I mean, it's your channel, and you're just trying to explore different topics. If I understand what he's saying, but it's not your job to provide only flat Earth. You can explore different things. Are you there?
Yep, I'm just chewing and don't want to do it on the microphone. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Hey, so I wanted to say, I feel a lot of the stuff that you're saying, and I do want to add something though that some knowledge that a lot of Westerners aren't aware of.
Okay.
So to fit it into the Jesus thing, okay, I agree. The Jesus story to me is like a story. It's a rewrite of what's happening with the yogic masters. I've told you this. And so there's a lineage of them. So what I wanted to say was, this is how you know if it's a real, like, guru or not. Because Jesus, what did he have? He had disciples, and they were around him. He taught them. Well, all the yogic masters have disciples like that. They pick and choose. I mean, they don't pick them. It's something godly leads it to them, and then it's chosen by something supernatural, But the point is this: the disciples, they get changed, they get transformed without not just the disciples, anybody that comes around those masters, they all go. If you study this or look into what Westerners thought of when they went around the masters, they all walk away saying something happened to me that I couldn't explain. Something in my consciousness got changed and transformed. I felt something, some kind of peace that I had never felt before. Those people are not normal people. They are definitely divine, very advanced beings who know information that we don't understand. And calling him a saint or calling him anything like that, it doesn't do him justice. So we got to understand that there are beings who, and if you can transform people around you and heal people around you without saying a word and change their consciousness, and without saying a word, you're a special being, So that's the thing you want to look for if you're trying to talk about these really spiritual people. And so the Bible is going to tell you about the stories about things, but it's kind of like, when you told that guy to read Leviticus, I would say go read Vendetta, read the ancient book yogic writings, read those too, because there you're going to find where the origins of these writings are, where they've been kind of like over the eons, over the centuries, over the years, whatever, millennium, and also the government has changed them in such a way, because the Bible is replete with devil worship. The Bible is replete with devil worship. You have to know that. But that doesn't mean it's evil. It just means that the people in control, there's the true religion. There's one true religion, and all the religions stem from them, and they're all wicked and evil until you can find what the masters are saying. Go within, find your bliss, find your inner, the Most High inside yourself, and then no one can lie to you no more. That's all I can.
All right, thanks, Sacred. Appreciate it.
All right, peace.
So just a real quick comment on that. Again, what I have a weird problem with is the amount of people who come with, go find this person, go do this person, go see this person. I have a problem with that. I think there's no way that we've been put here with the goal of finding the person who knows the truth. That to me is just, you would never leave that up to people. How would they ever know? First of all, maybe they can, have a feeling when they get around that person or something, but really I would think that the goal is to come to the answers yourself. And that's ultimately what I ended up having to do when I couldn't find the answers anywhere. I looked at science, I looked at religion, I looked at Catholicism, I looked at Christianity, I looked at the Bible, I looked at, the Vedics, and nothing seemed to be correct until I just kind of said, what do I know to be true in and of myself? What do I know to be true? I know that I was given morality. I know the difference between right and wrong. I can feel the difference. There's a voice inside me that tells me, don't do that, do this. Okay. So that's one thing. Now, the people who say like, oh, well, then pedophile's good. And what if you feel like killing people and you think that feels good? Well, that's a lie. You're lying then, because it doesn't feel good. That everybody knows it's wrong. So if you have somebody who comes and says, well, I'm going to go kill people because that's what I think is good, we can all say wrong. That's not right. You're saying something that's completely different than everybody else. So I don't want people to think they're like, oh, I'm saying that whatever you feel good, or Aleister Crowley, love is the, whatever, his little rules are. No, I'm just saying inside of us, I believe that we are given the gift of discernment. We are given the gift of right and wrong, like the gift of conscience. We are given the gift of free will. The gift of free will, and then we're given morality. And the morality is so that anybody who comes to you saying, hi, I'm from God, or this book's written by God, you can read it and you can decide whether or not you want to associate the creator of all that is with that book. So when somebody comes along and tells me, here, Jaron, this book is written by God, and I open up to pages and see things that I don't think are, I was just reading this, where it's talking about what should happen to Samaria. Let Samaria perish, because she has stirred up her God to bitterness. Let them perish by the sword. Let their little ones be dashed, and let the woman with child be ripped up. So don't go telling me, Christians, that you're anti-abortion when God here is like, forget about Samaria. Let the women with children be ripped up. I have a problem with that. Sorry, I don't think God ever said that. I think a man said that and associated it with God. So throughout the entire Old Testament, the God is not a good person. It's not a good spirit. He's jealous. How are you jealous if you're God? Think about that for a second. You're God. You have nothing to be jealous of. It'd be like me creating little beings down here in the corner, telling you when you come over my house, yeah, those are all my little beings. I made them. What's the matter with you today, Jaron? I'm just really jealous. I'm jealous of the person that they believe is God. You'd be like, what? These little beings that I made, they have a belief that somebody, so I'm going to go down and kill their firstborn tomorrow, and then they'll believe in me. You would call the police. You would say, you've lost your mind. And yet this is somebody that people worship. There's the great God who is jealous, vindictive. He kills children. He kills babies. He does a bunch of things he shouldn't do. He introduced cutting of men's or boys' penises heads off. Okay? That's God who did that. There's now Christians that go around advocating for don't mutilate babies. It's like, do you realize where that came from? That's what God taught people to do. God is the one who separated us all and gave us different languages. God is the one who brought death into the world when he killed the first animal to give clothes to Adam and Eve. They didn't know about killing animals. God would have had to do that to give them a leather. He would have to go kill a cow somehow. And you can go on and on and on from there. God accepts Abel's sacrifice, but not Cain's. Why? Abel gave him animals. Cain gave him fruits and vegetables. So that's a time where God could teach, it's better to give fruits and vegetables than to kill animals. No, God favors one or the other. He favors the animal sacrifice. Go through Leviticus, go through Exodus. It's insane. It's an insane position to take that that's the creator of the world simply because we believe in a good God, a holy God, a just God. Okay, if you believe in that, then you don't believe in this God. That's all I'm saying. Let's go with Rebel Nazarene.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Rebel. What's up, bro? How's it going?
Good, you?
I think Good, man. I think this is the first time I called into your show, so I'm glad I finally found out.
Okay, real quick. So there's 2 more callers because we're way backed up now. So I'm going to get to the 2 callers. Nobody else don't use the phone line. I'm going to take 647 and 440, and then that's going to be it on the phone line. Go ahead.
Yeah. So you believe in God, right? Like a creator of the universe.
100%.
Okay. Would you agree? Would it be fair to make the statement that you believe that this God is, like almighty, all powerful, infinitely wise and intelligent, and what else?
Yes.
Like and eternal. Like you don't think anybody can kill God, right?
Correct.
Okay. So God lives forever then.
Yes, it's a weird thing to say lives forever he lives outside of time, but yeah, I guess that's eternal forever.
Exactly, right. So my question to you, Jaron, is wouldn't this God that you just said has all these characteristics that we just both agreed to, like even despite any kind of holy text or scripture or religious institution, whatever man has to say about him, just based off all those descriptions that you both and I agreed on what God is as the creator of the heavens and earth, wouldn't you agree that it would make sense that this God would give us an opportunity to live forever with him, whether it be in heaven or whatever, like just the opportunity of living forever with him?
Yes,
like,
agree.
That makes sense, right?
Yes.
Okay. So
my belief is, let me just give you my belief real quick. My belief is the best way to find out who's going to live forever, the best way to pick the best from the worst, the good from the bad, the wheat from the chaff, and that whole thing, is to not give direction to those people. If you come down with a book and say, do these things so that you live forever with me, then somebody who's very wicked and evil at their heart could still look at the book and be like, okay, now I see what I have to do to live forever. And they could actually not do the things that they're thinking in their head they need to do or whatever, and maybe get in because they never killed somebody, so they win. But if you are truly a good person, you're going to be good no matter what. Meaning you're not good because you're afraid of going to hell. Christians are deathly afraid of the Creator. Christians are fearful. The whole saying is fear God. I'm a God-fearing man. He's a God-fearing man. That is the worst thing ever. God does not want you to be like a broken down housewife who is afraid to leave her husband because he says he'll beat the shit out of her. That's not love. That's what Christians have become. They're afraid to buck the trend. They're afraid because God has threatened them with eternal damnation. First of all, if you threaten somebody, you have to love me or I'm going to do this. That's not love, whatever you give to that person. Do you understand that? If your wife told you, you either love me or I'm going to stab you when you sleep with these knives. Well, if you then love her because you're afraid that she's going to stab you with knives, that's not love. That's fear. So my deal is this book describes a God who says, don't do all these things, but he runs around doing those things. Being jealous, being vindictive, killing people, killing babies. That's what he's doing. So, and then he says, I never change. I'm the same always. I'm not a son of man. I'm not a human that's on earth. I'm God. I'm your only savior. Then he comes as himself, as a man, the man of, then he is the son of man. And then he did change. You have the God of the Old Testament saying, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, murder these nations, do this to these people because they don't believe in me, so I'm going to go kill them. Then Jesus comes and says, love your neighbor, love your enemy, turn the other cheek. Those two people are completely different. They're not the same. And so just because we have this belief that we've been told about Christianity and, God came in flesh and he died for our sins, I don't even know if that's what Christians believe anymore, but it's to me, the problem is you described everything perfect. You asked very rationally all those questions and we went along together. And then you said, wouldn't he do this, this, and this to give us any chance for eternal life? Yes. But the problem is then you went to the level of, would he also then give us a book that's clearly written by men, that those men say that they were inspired by God. And in that book, God goes against our moral understandings. God does things that we would never agree with. And we're not even allowed to question him because if we question the book, we're told we're not allowed to question God. So we are then forced to, no matter what the Bible says God did, we have to worship that God anyway. That's the problem. If God was in this book and he was raping old ladies, I couldn't say he shouldn't have raped these old ladies because Christians would just find actually, back in those days, the old ladies were sexually active a little bit later. They would have some excuse to give God permission to do whatever he does in this book. To me, I think that the test here is who can be a good person despite all the lies and the deceptions and the crap that we're throwing out. Anyway, I know I took most of your time, so you can go ahead and have another minute or two. Go ahead.
Yeah, that would have been a lot to respond to, but yeah, the thing about like.
Well, keep going with your story. You were going rationally. I was with you. You got to the point where you asked me, wouldn't he want to have forever? So now give me your what would you say from that point on?
Oh, well, yeah, no, I was just gonna say like because we agreed on all those things, like I was gonna ask you, this proposal of that the Bible is giving us as an opportunity for salvation, which is eternal life in the heavenly kingdom of God, where it'll be nothing but joy and happiness, really isn't all that far fetched when it comes to.
So what if your mom killed somebody when she was 16? She never told you. She had you. You go to heaven and she's not there. Are you going to be happy in heaven the rest of your eternity?
Wait. If my mom told me what?
What if your mom killed somebody when she was 16? She never told you, though. You didn't know about it. Then she dies, and then you die. You go to heaven, but she's not there. And you're like, God, where's my mom? Oh, if she actually killed somebody when she was 16, she's down in hell. So now are you going to enjoy heaven for eternity without your mom there?
I mean, if she didn't, did she tell me before that she promised me that I'm going to see her in heaven? Is that part of it?
No,
part of it too?
just you. I'm assuming that most people would want to see their parents when they got to heaven. That's all.
Well, I mean, and a lot of people wouldn't, right? Because they got maybe abused by them and stuff like
Sure,
that.
those people would be different, but I guess reword it this way: that there's somebody that you thought was a good person or that you cared about that you'll never see because they're down burning in hell, and you have to know that your mom, who obviously gave you life and you love her and everything, is burning in agony for eternity.
Well, I don't believe in eternal conscious torment, so that's
Okay.
another thing.
That's good because I don't think it's biblical.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's one, and then two, if God is truly who He says He is, as the creator of the heavens and the universe, and He has ability to judge more in a more capacity than any judge on earth could ever do,
Right.
Because not only can He see your actions and behavior, but He can go down to the very intention and your what was inside your heart.
Right. So see, people, real quick, I just want to stop and pause to people that are listening. This is exactly what I'm saying, right? So this is how God does those judgments because He is in you. So there is no getting around anything. He is the conscience within you that will judge you when your final day is here. He lives with you. He knows everything you've done and you think. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. So basically, to answer your question is because I know God has access to everything this person I thought was a good person or cared about more than I could have ever know, despite how long I may have known this person or been friends with. Ultimately, I'm gonna come to the conclusion that God's judgment was the rightful and just.
And you're not going to be upset about it or anything. I mean, if I'm there with my two parents and your friends are there with their parents and your cousins are there with their parents and you have neither parent because both of them are in hell or no longer in heaven, whatever you want to call that, they're no longer with us. You think you'd still call that eternal bliss? You said we would live with God for eternity in bliss and happiness and joy. I'm just saying, for me personally, I would have a hard time getting there and realizing my parents wouldn't be there.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I wouldn't know until I get there.
Yes.
But from what I can tell you right now, in this perspective, there's going to be so many other people that I can't wait to meet, like all the biblical patriarchs, like Enoch and Moses and them, all those legends that I'm going to have a wonderful time sitting down at the dinner table with, having absolutely epic conversations. That's going to be like the last thing in my mind.
Okay, I mean, I don't know if you thought that through. I don't know what kind of conversations you'd have with them, but if it's all perfect, you can't really think negative thoughts, or you can't. I don't really know. I guess I don't understand heaven. I don't understand really what we would be doing in heaven. And you said eating. I don't know what we would eat in heaven because everything would have to taste the same.
But Jaron, you already agreed that God would give us this opportunity of eternal life.
Yes, but not like in a human way, not like a human sitting down for dinner. I don't think we're going to go to heaven and sit down for dinner and have conversations. That's not what heaven is. That's a pretend heaven. That's not real. In my opinion, your goal is to get back to source, which is eternal bliss, but it's not. You don't take your person with you. This version of me or this person is a temporary thing, in my mind.
So you think you're just going to be like this, like sort of floating, ghost-like, ethereal, just spirit with no sort of like sensation whatsoever? Like, what,
No.
what are you thinking, bro?
No, I don't think that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I think there's something after this. So I don't think this is the end test. I think that there's, another plane of existence, if you will. So it'd be impossible for me to even comprehend what that might be, other than a world where only the people that pass this life live in the next one. So it would be better, just because you're actually going to have good people there and not just have overrunning by the negative here. But as far as the ultimate goal, like getting to the ultimate level, what would that be? I don't know. Some people think that you would actually be given like God status if you made it that far, or some people think that you would actually return and become part of God again, so that you would be part of the whole spirit again, not just the segmented piece. Again, I wouldn't know those things yet. I've never had any direct revelation of that.
See, for me, it's just like, I don't understand why God would have. I mean, clearly he already like planned out a very intricately, creation with all this detail and biodiversity and complexity and just, beauty and a wonderful experience that we have as life. I don't know why he would make us experience that for like 80 years if we're lucky, and then after we die, it just turns into something completely different that we're not even familiar with for like all eternity. That doesn't make sense.
No, I wouldn't think that makes sense either.
Right. So for me, I believe that he created us as this like living life as mankind, and of course we can go through things like that are evil and like make us cry and feel pain and stuff. But I don't believe that was God's intention, right? So that's why heaven would get rid of all those things, like Revelation.
So
says,
God does God see the future or no in your world?
Generally speaking, but he does limit his omniscience. There's like a compatibility with that.
Okay. So his intention was for everything here on earth to be perfect, and then Adam and Eve sinned, and then everything went downhill from there?
Something like that, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna let you go. We have another call. I'm gonna get to this last call. Thank you though for the call. Oh wait, which one are you? Oh, you're on StreamYard? Okay, sorry. Okay, we'll be right back with the next person over there. We're gonna go to one of these calls. Let's go with who's been waiting 19 minutes for 647. You're on the air. No more calls. 440 is the last one at the phone lines, and then we're gonna wrap it up. Go ahead.
Hey, Jeran, brother. Daniel from Toronto.
What's up, Daniel?
First, technical question. Is there anything could be done about when I'm on the hold as a phone caller that I hear the caller, not just you?
No, not when they're from StreamYard. I could try and fix it, but it's impossible for me to test that.
Yeah,
because
I feel like one blinded, one eye is blinded because I had to go to the corner of the house where there is no kids, and I cannot sit behind the computer.
Well, you can
while I'm waiting.
Okay, gotcha. You can watch the show, right? You're watching the show though.
Well, not because I have a desktop and I had to go to the corner of the house where I have only.
Gotcha. I will try and I'm going to write myself a note to do that for next week. I will figure out a way to get the sound to go across.
Yeah. It would be maybe same people are in the same position and it would be helpful.
Okay.
Anyhow, a great spin today as always. First thing, I don't understand.
Hold on 1 second, real quick. I need to check one thing. I just want to make sure that people over there can hear you. Matt, can you hear the caller?
No.
So when I'm talking on the phone over there, you can't hear him either.
No, I can't hear you. I can hear you. I can't hear him.
Got you. Okay, thank you. So it's a back and forth thing. They can't hear you. You can't hear them. So I'll figure out what's going on there. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Anyhow, so I have a little bit problem with the people who are taking issue and with that you decide to talk on the Saturday about the religious topic. And you have a main focus on the flat earth. They should leave you this liberty and right to choose to talk on your own show, whatever you wish. Yeah. So that's first thing from my side.
Well, thank you for that. I mean, I guess I do agree with what he's saying in one way, and that's, let's say there's a channel that talks about great things that I agree with, but they also on Sundays talk about how they like to sacrifice things to the devil. Well, I can understand that would be a problem because I'd be like, man, I would recommend your show, but you have that Sunday show where you talk about Satan stuff. So, I mean, I know it's a little bit of a far extent, but I get what they're saying, that they want to direct people to my channel for the other content. But if they do, they know that they're going to catch this content and maybe it's something they don't want to share. So I get his point. I'll take it into consideration.
Yeah, the main reason was why you separate this topic to the separate show, that those who doesn't want to listen can opt it out. Yeah.
True.
So
Yes.
and you did right choice.
Thank
yeah.
you.
So the other story is about I have a hard time to understand people who has an issue with that there is some divine godness, God with the small g within us, when the beginning of the Bible says that we were created on his image. Yeah. So the question is it physical image? We're looking like he has two hands and two legs, and
no,
or is it something which is not physical? And if that would be by many people, they believe that because we can exercise and show those qualities like love, justice, and other qualities, that's where we resemble to that divine creator. Yeah. So there is something within us which is definitely of divine nature, and we can call it God with small g or whatever we're gonna call it. And therefore, if any of us would pen some scripture, naturally it would carry some potential to have some God inspiration within that. So yeah, when we look on the Bible like that, yeah, those people who penned those words, they had some godness within them, and they penned many times some wise things, but other things might be completely off the chart.
Right. And we would recognize that by our morality, looking into it and saying, do we think God would do this or do that? And we could decide, no, I don't think so. Unless you're forced to believe in some way that the entire book is inspired and it has to be correct. But then if that's the case, wouldn't you have some reason to believe that God wrote it in the first place? Right? Like if God came down and told everybody, I wrote this book, it is my book, it is what, okay, well then I'd have to decide, do I want to worship this God that wrote this book and he has some immoral things in here, but I know for a fact that he is God? That's another story completely. We don't have that. We have just a book written by supposedly, or again, by men, but they say they were inspired by God, but we've never had God say it. So it's even worse now because your only option is to believe men who say they are speaking about God or not. And I don't know why I would ever have in the first place taken the position of, oh, I'm going to believe this. Again, you're believing men then.
Yeah. The other story is those who advocate the supremacy of the Christianity about any other religion is the first thing is why majority or population of the earth is Christian. Well, because they were born to the geographical area of the world where Christianity was as a so-called main religion or state religion or so it's a cultural thing, yeah, in a way.
Yep.
And the other question which I have for many of those who advocate the supremacy of Christianity is, what religion was Adam and Eve?
Right.
So I'm gonna leave it with those with this question: what religion they were?
They would have just believed in the Creator, right?
Sure, there was probably no formal religion.
No.
They were not Buddhists, Hindus, or whatever. So seems like the religion wasn't present on the dawn on humankind by the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
The religion was somehow reappear later on. Yeah. So if we try to return to the beginning or advocate for supremacy, not me and I, but those who advocate that the Christianity is the only truth, then we have a problem right on the beginning with Christian affiliation or religious affiliation. I corrected.
Right. Okay. Well, I appreciate the call. Thank you so much, Daniel.
Yeah. Peace out.
Later. That was, and then we got 440 is the last one. Yeah. 440. You're the last call for today. Welcome to the show.
Hello. How are you?
Shoot, I did this wrong. Hold on. Did I get the right? Oh, you're on. Okay, good. Sorry. Go ahead.
Hello. Can you hear me?
I hear you great. Go ahead. Sorry.
So I wanted to, I got a similar story to yours. I was sent to Catholic school as a kid. I found it terrifying, the stages of the cross in the church, and the incense made me sick. So let's look at the story of this crucifixion, okay? You send your son down there. He gets brutally murdered, okay? A few days later, you pull him out of a cave. He goes, meets with his 12 friends, and then he floats off into the sky. Wouldn't that be the biggest psyop ever created on mankind? I mean, come on now. If I was Jesus, I would have been like, look, Dad, I'm messing around with the angels. Can't you shoot a lightning bolt or something? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me at all. You know, I raised 3 boys and 2 girls. I could just imagine telling my son, look, son, I'm going to need you to go down here. The humans are misbehaving. What I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you mess with this Pontius Pilate dude. He's going to nail you to the cross, drag you around the streets. They're going to chuck you in a cave for a few days. Then after everybody's
real quick, if you don't mind, can you just talk a little bit quieter or move your mouth away from the phone? There's a problem where it picks up this really scratchy if you're shouting. So just kind of move your head.
How's that now?
Better, thank you. People get mad and they tell me that I'm doing something wrong or something. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just wanted to get this off my chest for a long time, right? But it just seems like the whole story to me is ludicrous. I mean, I could never imagine that happening. I would consider the story of the crucifixion one of the biggest psyops ever posed on mankind. Also, I don't think God needs a human being to write him a book. So it's just like, it's kind of, you know, it's sad that people worship a book. I mean, why don't you worship Moby Dick or something, right? Same thing, right? But it just doesn't make sense to me.
The only way it would make sense to me is if the book was utterly perfect. If it was completely and totally perfect, maybe, and even then, I could have an argument against it saying, well, there was a ancient civilization that knew more than we know, and so that they were able to write this and make it look perfect. There'd be a lot of questions still, because, and again, it's words on paper, and words on paper can be interpreted in thousands of ways, meaning that you can find somebody who can find any of these Bible verses and change the meaning of it to whatever they feel like. And so the difference between when I said, oh no, it's not good, the pedophile who feels that his position is good, we know that that's not right. But if then I'm having to deal with people giving me their opinion of the words of a book, it's more difficult, because you would look at it and go, wow, I guess you could see it that way, right? But it's not that you're seeing the truth in the book, it's that somebody's learned to manipulate the words.
Exactly. And it's like, I mean, when you think about the whole story of Jesus, to me, it just seems like a huge psyop. Everybody, you know, is going to fall for that. I don't think God needs human beings to write a book for him. And I agree with you that it comes from within, you know, the mind, the body, and the spirit. I know that it's wrong for me to go over next door and siphon the gas out of my neighbor's truck.
Right.
Okay. I know it's wrong for me to look at a little girl and be like, wow, she's kind of cute. I'd like to fool around with her. I mean, doesn't that come from within, from our soul, from our spirit?
Yeah, they say all the truth comes from the Bible. I'm not really sure. Does the Bible say anywhere in there that you're not supposed to mess with kids? I don't think so. Not as far as, I mean, like an age or something. I mean, it doesn't really talk about that. Same thing with like rape. It doesn't talk about rape because really rape didn't exist back then, because God didn't think of women as women were property. So if you stole somebody's wife or raped it, you actually did bad against her father, not raped the woman. But anyway, go ahead.
So we can look at I can look at my own situation. And like I said, I've raised kids. I was born in the 60s. I went to Catholic school in the 60s. So if I ever thought anybody was going to try to do anything to one of my children, especially my little girls, there'd be hell to pay. And so, you know, with that comes from within. You know, so I feel like people that are living their life according to a book, they're missing it, you know. And again, back to, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but I just can't understand, you know, like the 10 stages of the cross that was in the church. That was terrifying to me as a little kid. And I thought, you know, luckily my parents allowed me to get out of Catholic school and go to public school for grade 7. At least I was able to be around my friends. I didn't have to wear a suit and tie and make sure my shoes were shined and all that stuff, you know. So,
I went the opposite way. I went public school until 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and then high school was all Catholic.
Okay, so I was kind of the reverse of that, but yeah, just crazy. The whole story about the crucifixion, just like I can't square that at all, especially if I was God. I mean, what? Yeah, you would have to not care about your son in order to do that. And then as far as the people go that lived in those times, if it's actually what they say it was, that's the biggest psyop ever. Okay, to make the population believe that this dude was special and that God himself sent him, have him brutally murdered and assassinated, and then have him come back to life and then have dinner with his friends and then float off into the clouds.
But here's the even weirder thing is that why didn't they recognize him? The gospel stories say that they didn't recognize Jesus. So he was a different person when he came back, because the fisherman story, he's on the shores and he sees the man and they're like, they didn't know who it was. And then they went, he's like, come eat dinner with me, gets the fish. And they even, the Bible says, but they did not ask who he was because they didn't want to upset him or something. But then it says they knew that it was Jesus, but they didn't want to ask him who he was, which means it wasn't the same guy. You would never say that, right? But that's John. Luke's story is a little bit more clear, but that they didn't recognize him. He must have looked different.
That's all suspicious in and of itself.
Although I think it said, now I remember, it says something about they were stopped from recognizing him for whatever reason. I don't know why God would do that, but somebody stopped them from recognizing him. But no, I mean, again, you're right. And then there's stories about there's people who all got out of their grave and started walking around. I mean, I would think that would be the biggest story of all time.
That would be kind of disgusting too, to see a bunch of people that were half rotted walking around, right?
Yeah, I actually don't want to see my grandma come out of her grave right now. Can she clean up first, please?
That's pretty bad. So yeah, I just wanted to get that out there. I've always talked to my family about that when it comes to the story of Jesus and being crucified. I'm like, that would be the biggest psyop ever put on humanity.
Especially because the only ones who could ever prove it are the small little group of people in that area. And I mean small, right? Like what's the most amount of people who could really see him? Not very many. And so you would have the rest of the world who is forced to just believe the story. And again, today, if somebody came to you and told you, oh, in Syria yesterday, a guy rose to heaven in the you would be like, yeah, right.
Of course. I would know right away it was the Mockingbird media, and I'd be like, yeah, I ain't buying into none of that crap.
Right. Unfortunately, this is before that people probably knew that and they believed anything they were told. So, all right. Well, thanks for the call. I do appreciate it. Oh, what?
You're welcome. It's just crazy how people attack you for throwing out, for putting that out there when they should actually be, able to look at both sides of the story and weigh it out. I mean, don't attack somebody for that. It's just crazy.
It's okay. I mean, I get it because people want us to be all on the same page, and I get it. I mean, that would be ideal, but it's just not realistic. But we can. The way I look at like Austin is he has a belief in Christianity. Okay, great, but he's a good person, and that's all I care about. So from there, and then I would care if he said like, if I was like, hey, let's go out and defeat the NWO or this, and he's like, oh, I'm just going to wait for Jesus. Well, then I'd have a problem with him, but he doesn't feel that way. So it's very easy for me to get along with people who have the same mentality. But the problem is that I know a lot of Christians that are wicked people, or I wouldn't say wicked. They're evil, they're hateful, they're spiteful, and they don't do anything. And they think that because they are Christian and you're not, that they have some leg over you or something. And I just think it's sad. And I'm hoping to give them one more chance before it's too late. Because we could lose.
Yeah, angry too. I've seen them attack you while watching your show. I've seen them attack you and angry. And just to set the record straight, the teachings of Jesus, I think, are a great thing.
Me too.
If everybody could follow the teachings of Jesus,
right,
then we'd have a great world.
Right.
But the whole idea that they put the biggest psyop on mankind, I don't buy that for 1 minute. Anyways, it's been great talking to you, Jaron.
Have a good one.
Keep up the good work, and you take care. Thank you.
You too. Peace. All right, we're going to go back to StreamYard, and we're going to get rid of the call-in studio. So thank you guys for that. Let me drop this call. Goodbye. And drop this one. Oops, let's start over. Okay, good. So see if there's anybody left. If not, we will be. All right, so we've got Matt is in the house. Matt, go ahead. You are on the air.
Hey, what's up, brother?
How are you?
I just want to say, man, I like what you've been doing, like the way you've questioned everything. It's the route you've went with, starting from, raw, just what do I know, what can I see, what can I prove to myself?
Right.
I love that.
And it's the way I went with Flat Earth too, which is why it kind of seems right, is that erasing everything I've been told, erasing everything that I've been fed, and recognizing that if God did put me here and did give me a heart and a soul and a mind and a brain, then I would think that the truth would be able to be found there, because everything outside of you is possible deception. And I know people might say, well, Jaron, things inside you might be possible deception too. And I would say, yes, because of the things that we were taught. So it's a very difficult thing to shed what your indoctrination was. But you can do it because you just have to pretend, like, for instance, if I was raised with this Christian belief, well, I can just say, let's pretend that I don't have a Christian belief. So let's read the Bible without thinking it's written by God. And when you do that, you quickly realize it's not written by God. Because if you read it believing it's written by God, then it's very easy to start making excuses. He must have meant this. It probably doesn't mean that. It probably meant this. And it's just very easy to kind of make, like, I wish my job was to be an apologist for the Bible. It'd be easy. Anything anybody said, even the things I'm saying to you, I would be able to refute those by just changing the words around a little bit. Well, you don't understand what it's actually saying. You don't have the spiritual hierarchy that I do. You don't talk to the same authority masters and pastors that I do. It would be very easy to, and this is why pastors do it and make money, because they don't even read the whole Bible. They basically open up and they'll read one verse that sounds great. You know, through God, all things are made. Okay, let's talk about that. And then they spend an hour doing that.
Those pastors went to some kind of,
seminary,
school. Yeah, they went to some kind of school, and they told them how to teach that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I noticed. My uncle is he's a deacon and all that, and he's been through the schools. And I noticed this past Christmas when, like, him and his, like, kids and stuff, they visited, and he started telling, like, the story of, like, Christmas of, like, Jesus and stuff. And I was like, holy crap, dude, he's, like, really indoctrinated.
Yeah, he believes that story even happened, even on December 25th and everything.
Yeah. I mean, he preached it, like,
right.
And like, he pulled, like, these certain verses, and I was like, holy crap, dude, like, it was almost genius.
Yeah, they can be really good. I mean, my brother-in-law is excellent, but he's I don't know, talking to him in, like, real life, you can't even really talk to him. He's not even, like, a real person, but he gets on stage and he's just so holy. And then he, like, the music starts playing behind him and he gets real pumped up and everybody's on their feet. And then he takes off from the church before church ends, so nobody has to talk to, he doesn't have to talk to anybody. It's like, and he's making a ton of money, opening up different churches in the town, buying movie theaters so people can go into the movie theater and watch him on stage in another place. It's brilliant. And he's rich. And what am I going to do? I've got to tip my hat to him and say congratulations. Now, whether or not he really believes, I can't say that. I think that he does believe. And here's the scary thing, because I know the story about when they went down there. They went to Montana, him, his wife, and 2 friends. So 4 people. They went there, they sat around a kitchen table and said, God, please let us start a church here. If this is our mission, if our mission is true and this is what you want us to do, please let us have 8 people next weekend. Well, guess what? The next weekend they had 10. So they sat around and said, God, this looks like you want us to do this. It's your design. It's your prayer. It's your world. It's your, if we're meant to do this, let's have 15 people next weekend at church. They had 20. So they tell the story as if this is all ordained by God, them going to Montana and opening these huge churches and now becoming a very popular name. We were at Disneyland with them, whatever that was, 2 weeks or maybe a month ago. And 2 or 3 times people came up to us at Disneyland to, like, oh, Levi, let's go. Oh, Pastor, let's go. Oh, falling all over him like he's, and again, I've seen this guy do things in personal life that would be appalling to people that are followers. So again, it comes down to, I've never had a good example of these pastors. I knew priests. I've worked directly with them. They were only great people when they were outside the church shaking people's hands. The second they got into the rectory, they'd go upstairs, start drinking Jack Daniels. I'd call them and say, hey, there's a homeless guy at the door. Tell him to go home. Tell him to get out of here. Like, okay. I mean, if people saw that, if people heard that, they wouldn't even come to your church, bro. Like, that's not. So again, I just became disillusioned with all these people. They all seem fake. And even Christians, again, I always bring up Rob Skiba. Rob Skiba was different to me. But again, here's another thing about Rob Skiba, is one time I was talking to this girl, I think she called Raw, if I remember right. And she's like, oh, I had a great time at the conference, this and that. And I met you and I met this and I met Rob Skiba for a second. And I was like, oh, Rob Skiba's so great. And she's like, oh, my husband and I didn't think so at all. She's like, because he came out of a thing and we went up to him to talk to him and he was like too busy to talk to us and he just kind of walked off. So then I was like, okay, again, I'm not saying that's anything wrong with what Rob did, but I'm saying I bet people feel that way about me. When we're at those conferences, there's everybody coming up to you. Sometimes I just want to go to my room and I might just walk by somebody. So I'm like, that's not really a reason to judge him. But at the same time, I was like, well, maybe he was just being nice to me. And sometimes he didn't portray that Christian kind of love to everybody. So I can't even really say that. I don't know what his story is with everybody. Maybe there's people out there saying he never talked to me when I was at the conference. So I'm not saying that he was a great Christian to me, because he was actually somebody who made me look at Christianity and go, I wonder if I should look into Christianity a little more, just because of the kind of person he was to me, not pushing the Bible, very easy to talk to. He would come sit at me at dinner at these events, sit next to me. And I would be first thinking like, oh shit, Skiba, he's going to start talking about religion. And he just wouldn't. He would remember my wife's name, my son's name. How's Missa? How's Corey? You guys doing good? Great. What's new? How's your channel? Are you making any money? Have you thought about doing this? You thought about writing a book? Everything was always like just friendly. It wasn't Christianity. Where's your walk with Jesus? If I go to my sister-in-law's house, the first question will be, Jaron, how's your walk with Jesus? Be like, just fine. Go ahead. Let's talk about something else. But go ahead. I took up 2 minutes of your time.
That's all good. No, that's beautiful, man. That's awesome. Yeah, I don't. Like I said, I like the way you're going about it, because it.
Well, it's the only way to go about it, right?
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And I spent a lot of my time as like a lot of my life as an atheist until I discovered flat Earth, and then realized there had to be a creator, and I started getting back into it.
So let me ask you that, because I have a good question there. So you were atheist, you found flat Earth, and then realized, well, if that's true, there must be a creator. So at that point, did you then say, well, Christianity must be true, or what was the next thought?
Well, I would say sort of, maybe Christianity could be true, but like, because I did go back into the Bible, and I did start reading the Bible and reading what it said, and went down that whole like rabbit hole of things, but it was almost like I didn't realize some of the really bad things that were in there. Like at this point, I consider myself Muslim.
Mm-hmm. Because the Quran is.
But I read the Quran, but the Quran, you read the Quran alone, it doesn't have that stuff about the 9-year-old
right
Aisha marriage and all that stuff. The Quran by itself, it does not say that anywhere.
No, you mean about Muhammad's escapades? You mean, or
yeah, no, like that's not there. That's not in the Quran.
No.
That's in these other writings called the Hadiths. It's almost like the Talmud.
Okay. So here's my issue with Muslims, or with that religion, is that I think that the belief is that God did write the Bible and that it was corrupted. And so then he came and gave Muhammad the new scripture, the Quran, and said it would never be corrupted. Is that correct? I mean, if somebody asked you, what do you think about the Bible, and as a Muslim, don't you believe that God wrote the Bible and it was corrupted?
Man, all I'm going to say
you
is,
don't know?
I read the Quran, and it just seems like it is the perfect way to live your life.
Okay, gotcha.
Like that's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say like historically whatever,
right?
Because I know everything in our timelines have been
screwed
like,
with,
yeah,
for sure.
But I'm just saying, when I read that book, I do see like a perfect way to live your life.
Is there different versions of it, or just that one? Because the Quran's never been changed, right? It doesn't have versions like the Bible.
I mean, it's been translated into English by several different people. So
so there's differences there. Okay.
Certain words might be changed. I do read through like a few different versions. They all seem to match up.
I'm pretty sure I have one too. Maybe I'll look at that over there.
Yeah.
It's not very big, is it?
No. It's not. It's not too bad. I mean, yeah, I'd say you could read it within a month's time.
Okay. Let's take a look at it. But yeah, my biggest problem is just that whole idea of God wrote the Bible, it was corrupted, so then he came down to a new people and gave them the new book. Like, somebody should have told God, like, what are you doing? Now you're going to have Christians who believe that you gave them the right book, and you're going to have Muslims who believe that you gave them the right book, and they're going to fight with each other forever because you're not telling the Christians that you've rewritten the book and given it to the Muslims.
Well,
So,
but see, I also believe from a lot of stuff that I've been looking into, I think like just like 200 years ago, I think Muslims and Christians were like the same people.
possibly. This is the thing. Our entire history is just screwed up. And we all know that. That's why I think it's baffling that people then will still bank their entire, eternity, I guess, if you believe that, but on a book that is very hard to determine who wrote it. We just learned today, what was it, that 800 or what did it say, 1100 or 1000 or whatever it was, like 1,000 years after Jesus, that we have the oldest manuscript. So just recognize that, and it doesn't matter if that manuscript says written off of a copy of the 800 version, written off a copy of the 400, written off a copy of the 70 AD. That wouldn't matter. You can't prove that. It's just, you can only prove what the most recent version is. And if it says it's written off this, written off this, written off this, again, you're believing in that man. Unless God said, I wrote this Bible, I will keep it true. You never will change. But he did say that, but the Bible has changed. He did say that. And
You
don't need that. You're saying you're just going based off
there.
Right.
I think that was just written in there.
Me too. Right. So then really you're just saying the Quran has the best rules to live by.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think it is.
There's nothing bad in there. I don't know if there is or isn't. I've never looked at it in full.
No, I haven't really found too much. Seriously.
Does it say you can kill people who don't believe in Allah?
No.
It does not say that.
No, it does not say that.
Okay.
Not in the Quran. It does say that in hadiths later on, but the hadiths, that's like the fucking like I said, the Talmud is like, but you know how the fucking certain people have to read the Talmud to interpret what the Old Testament actually means.
Right, it's like hidden in there.
It's like that's what hadiths like try to do that, but no, man.
Okay.
You read the Quran for what it is.
And it lays out the earth as if it's a carpet, right?
Yes.
Which seems right. Does it talk about the sky at all much?
Yeah.
What the sky is? Yeah, I'm gonna have to read it. I want to check this.
I can't really
No, it's good. I have one over there. I'll just grab it because I want to now that I have a different understanding of what
it's really there's a lot of interesting things in there.
Okay. Good to know.
But yeah, it is a flat earth book, and it's very sensible. Like they do not believe that Jesus Christ actually died and was resurrected, but they do believe that
he was a prophet, right?
And what's that?
They believe he was a prophet, though.
Yeah, he was a prophet, and he came here, and they do actually believe that he was like the Torah in the flesh,
right?
Like
the
word,
perfect
representation of how to live life on Earth,
right?
To be a perfect human being, and he was the only one who could have done that,
right?
They just don't believe that he like died and was resurrected. They believe he ascended like Enoch ascended.
But then
now it says, like Enoch walked like 300 years on Earth and ascended.
Okay, got you.
300 and whatever years.
Do they believe
they believe that Jesus ascended to heaven? They don't believe that he died.
Oh, he never died at all.
Yeah.
Oh, so they really think the Bible's corrupted then. The whole story of the crucifixion. Okay, so do they believe that Muhammad died or Muhammad just went to heaven?
Well, Muhammad was just the final prophet.
No. What do they believe, that he went to heaven or that he died and wrote? Because they say they saw him on a white horse go to heaven, right, or something like that. I'll look into it. I'll look into it because I know people want me to too. They're like, "Why do you never talk about other religions?" So I'll do that, and then can bring that up next week and kind of give my opinion of that.
I haven't read the entire Quran, so I'm like 3/4 through it. But
is there anything in there that you would think is different than you would feel intuitively? Meaning, let's say there's no Quran, there's just you and your thoughts and your opinion of the world and the way you look around. Is there anything that you've read in the Quran that you're like, oh, okay, I know to act that way now, but I wouldn't have acted that way without the book?
No, because it does. It like makes perfect sense.
Right, it's just intuitive. It's just exactly.
If you think of your childlike mind, like first instinct.
Right.
Like.
Okay. Good note. Well, I appreciate the call.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the
All right, brother.
Thanks, though. Appreciate you listening. All right, we got Fishhead. You're ending the show for us tonight. We've got a couple minutes. What's up?
What's up, Jaron? How are you doing tonight?
Good, yourself?
Not too bad. How's my audio?
Nice and strong and deep. You sound like God.
Beautiful. It's time for some fucking gravy.
Okay, we're ready.
On YouTube, you can find the video. I guess I'll preface by saying, in Globebusters, not last week or the week before, I don't know, towards the end you were talking about some vortex math and basically the idea of numbers having a quality to them and not just a quantity.
Mm-hmm.
So on YouTube, there's a video by Greg Braden. It's something like, this DNA discovery will change everything, or
I've seen it. Okay.
I don't know if you've seen it. You're familiar with Greg Braden. You know what I'm talking about with the gematria and the DNA.
Yes, kind of. I've watched a little bit of it. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was, but yeah, that somehow encoded in the DNA is the creator's name or something.
The first line of code in every DNA, you use the atomic weights of the elements that make up the first line of every carbon-based life form, I guess. And it reads God eternal within the body. But it doesn't just read that in one language, it actually reads it in three. It reads it in Hebrew, Sanskrit, and Aramaic. But you're using gematria, which I definitely lend credence to. If you know anything about Marty Leeds' work, he's done a lot of amazing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He uses gematria. I think Fortune de Saint Germain talked about gematria and using gematria and how numbers have qualities to them. So I see how this works.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the numbers behind that was Greg Braden says in that video that the odds of that being coincidence are 1 in 234,256. So that's not as big as you might think, but still pretty big odds for that.
That'd be pretty rare, pretty happenstance if it was that way. Okay. And what? So explain to me real quick, because maybe you understand it better than I do. So if your DNA, and let's say that there's nobody else here on Earth, it's just me, and we start bringing some people back, or let's say it's me and my wife, and we have baby. Okay, we start building the population back. So are you saying that in the future, down the road, if somebody again discovered DNA, it wouldn't be me, I'm not smart enough, but let's say somebody does, that they would again find the same code? Or is it like, so let me give an example. Like they have a model right now that they know what's inside the atom. Inside the atom is the proton and the neutron, and they all orbit each other and things like that. But we know that that's not true, that the atom is the smallest thing you can see. So to know what's inside of it is purely conjecture. And they have developed a model. I'm not saying it doesn't work. It does work well with these models and these kind of ideas. So it'd be the equivalent to me as if somebody said, oh, well, Jaron, inside the proton of an atom is written the name of the creator. And I'd go, oh, wow, cool. I better believe that. But then if I really thought about it, I'd be like, well, wait a second. How are you seeing what's inside? And then if they told me like, well, here in the model, this is the letters associated we've given to them, and these letters match up to the numbers that are, well, then we've got a problem, because then we have humans involved that could be setting that up by deception. So are you saying that there's actual letters in our DNA? What is in our DNA that is spelling God's name?
So like we talked about before, the numbers have a quality in gematria. So each one of them, and what was the science used to give those numbers their quality in the terms of how we use it in language? That's a really good fucking question. I'm not sure I know the answer to that question, or I'm not sure that anybody does.
So what about what in
so
DNA?
The way we have the number of the atomic weight of the elements is almost kind of like this is going to be a really layman's crash course kind of term, but I got to put it into words because I can see it in my head. So it's just like the quantum science experiments where an alleged photon, which to me is like you're getting a hit of energy or whatever. So an individual ether wave perturbation. You know, like you think of it, there's no such thing as photons. Well, what is it? It's an ether wave perturbation. It's just like that's one pulse of light or whatever, just shock waving through the ether. So basically, they're just counting how many they get with each of those elements. You see what I'm saying? So this element, we find this many shock waves around it or whatever, you know? So we say that it has this many electrons, and they assign it a number, you know?
Right. So then how are those numbers in DNA?
Oh, your DNA is made up of molecules that you can break down, I guess. So I mean, you're just taking what your actual DNA is physically made out of, and then just the atomic weight of those atoms. It's the very the very beginning of the DNA code. You're gonna, obviously, I just watched a video. Greg Braden's the one that did the research, and he's putting a lot of different things together.
Okay, I'll check him out.
And for me, the number 234,256, I guess, is the one that is the those are the odds of that not being true. And you were talking with before. We're always talking about this book or that book or whatever. Well, where the fuck would you write a message that you wouldn't be able to erase? And right there would be a way to do it, because it's a simple objective truth. And it also goes with the idea that God used language and spoke life and spoke everything into existence. The fact that we would, in the very fiber of our being, find a link to language itself, and also numbers, and that they all just are, placeholders, or everything here is just a representation of what is actually, an idea, or, a metaphysical condition, if you will, like that's why everybody always wants to talk about the ultimate truth. You think it's some physical thing you can grab,
right?
You can wrap your head around, when ultimate truth is emanating from somewhere else, and this place is kind of a shadow of it, I guess, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
So that's why things are so hard for us to grasp here, is because the ultimate truths are actually non-physical, and what we see here is just a representation of the truth. But yeah, if you were going to write a message and not have it be erased, DNA would be the place to do it. In that video, he talks about how scientists actually put a message into bacteria and then gave it like 20, 30 generations, and then were able to actually extract that same exact message without any damage to it whatsoever.
Yeah, it's the video I saw.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thanks.
so
Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a good one, Jaron.
Peace. All right. Good call there. I think he's got a point. I'm going to look into that. But again, I guess I would have asked him. I don't know if that necessarily proves anything to do with the Bible, right? The creator could have written that into the code somehow, but it wouldn't be necessarily Bible related, but it could be. I don't know. I'd have to look into it. I wanted to look at the super chats. It looks like we got one from 5 times 1,000. He said, KJV written in 1611. Okay. Did I say something different? I might have messed that up if I said something different. So thank you for that super chat. And then we're going to go check Rokfin and see if anybody donated over there. We did. Thank you very much. We've got tips. Ashley, thank you very much. Ashley's on a tipping streak. I appreciate it. She is absolutely crushing. All right, let's say goodbye. Let's say who's over here at YouTube, see if everybody's pissed. I'm going to pull this from YouTube because we did say some things that are probably not allowed. And it will be at Rokfin. You will be able to watch it free for the rest of the day. And then it will go behind the paywall, which is only $15 a month. And you get everybody there. So you get Crow, you get me, you get Owen Benjamin, you get Brian Stavely, Karen B, Glowbusters, Austin Whitsitt. You get Primetime 99 Alex Stein on the grind all the time. His new show is out. You guys see it yet? It's all right. I liked it. I thought it was the second episode was better than the first. He's got his own little set, pimp on a blimp eating shrimp. It's pretty funny. Yes, shadow is in the true definition of the word human, shadow of a man, not actually a man. Okay. Just see if there's anybody here. If you have anything for me, you can say it now. People at YouTube, just put at Jeranism so I see it. Thank you. Nice work. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you for the super chat. Alex Stein is good. He's funny. He's definitely funny. Challenge to the non-believers and Christians, learn the commandments today. Yes, the commandments. There's some weird thoughts on that too. I was talking to Austin about that. Austin says that the word means 10 words and the commandments are all made up or something. I'd have to look into that. But I've always had even issues with those, that God's very demanding in the first 3 or 4 about him, right? Yahweh, who is pure spirit, took shape and form known as Elohim, named Yeshua, seen in visions and revelations and manifested in flesh known as Adam, who is all men's granddaddy, which makes you? I'm not really sure what's going on there, but Yeshua is Jesus, right? Seen in visions and revelations and manifested in flesh known as Adam. So Jesus is Adam? It's new to me. Let's see what else we got. Only mankind means man and woman. God is your brain. Well, your brain would not operate without God. That's for sure. I believe that God is inside you. He is what animates you. He is what keeps you alive when you're sleeping. He's what moves you around. He's what. This is a magical place, and the fact that we even exist, we've just fell for atheist ideas, and we think very materialistically, and we think, oh, I could just be built up out of nothing, and we can. No, none of that is anywhere near true. It's a magical place. If it wasn't for people getting here before us and saying we went to the moon and we know what the sun is and we know how long it takes light to get here, and making up a bunch of shit they don't know, looking at the stars and telling you they know that they can see back in time and they're 25 trillion miles away because they made a telescope. I mean, they make a microscope and they know that when we're looking at a leaf, that the things they see way down in there are not far, they're in the leaf. But then they look up at the sky, they're like, oh, the things we see in there, they're way the hell over there. What? No, they're not. They're right there on top of you. Especially if you watched my stream yesterday, go watch the Jeranism show yesterday, and I explained how the lid of the earth or the ceiling is very, 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 very low. So it's not a dome like we've been thinking. It's like there's a level flat roof, and it's really close to us. And it tells me that the stars are right on top of us. So the energies of the stars probably have something to do with life, or at least we'll be able to use them or see some correlations with them. So something to look into. But see if anybody's else writing to me real quick before I go. Jesus is the Christos within. Yes, Cheryl's got it. Cheryl's got it for sure. Landline to the moon. How dare you? What are you saying? That President Nixon wasn't on the up and up? Come on. Good night, Steve. I hope you watch Helio Sorcery. It's a great movie. You're brave for even approaching this subject. Thank you very much. There's somebody who told me yesterday to stop the Brave Act. Oh, whatever. People can pipe out all they want. Look it up on YouTube. God is your brain. Makes sense to me. God is your brain. Okay. I'm not going to say no because I never even thought about it. But it's pretty crazy that everybody on earth, like I do still think the same thing. The fact that we can ask who created us, to me, is proof of the creator. And the only way I can't ever really prove that, but I could ask, because I could say to you, well, find me something that is not created that asks that. Well, that'd be very difficult for you to do. You'd have to find something that then you would just find something man created that's been programmed to ask who created it, but no actual thing on its own would ever ask that unless you were created. So I believe that we're put here with the question, why am I here? What am I doing here? Why is this so special? And then from there, it's up to you to decide how to live your life. And I believe that the people who live it right will be rewarded. And the people who do not will either be cast away forever or possibly given another chance in reincarnation. Just my belief. It's what makes sense to me. I've seen enough evidence of reincarnation. I have not seen any evidence of this great and holy person that Christianity brings to us. When I go over to Jim Bob's stream, you have nothing but soy boys. At the end of this stream, when he brings people on, they all talk very effeminate. They all talk about authority and what do the church fathers say, and they don't do anything, and they just sit there and wait for Jesus. And again, they say things like slavery isn't bad, freedom of speech is bad, we should stop people speaking if they don't speak about the Bible being good. Like they believe in freedom of speech. They believe in limiting speech like my speech. They think that I should have to limit what I say because I'm not saying what they want me to say. I believe you defeat good ideas with you defeat bad ideas with good ideas, with words. So I can just keep talking about my ideas, and if they're better than the mainstream Orthodox Christianity or whatever that is, who asks you, who's your authority? Where did you get your authority? You're not allowed to decipher the Bible on your own. You're not allowed to judge God. You're not allowed to question the Bible. It just is, because it's what truth is. Imagine that. There's people out there who think that everything stems from this book. There is no truth unless it's in this book. And to me, that's you are just demoting humanity to basically garbage, that we are here to follow the words written on a book that we know men wrote. So, Jaron, is there a name for the system of ideas or beliefs you have? No, not that I can think of. Nope. I just think that I don't want people to say like it's a pantheism. It's not that. I don't believe that there are more than one God. There is one God. Now I can say we are all gods. Yes. And as such, that's like me saying we're all equal, meaning there is nobody who's more God than you. And there's nobody who's more God than me. We're all given the equal amount of God inside of us. Now from there, that's just how you should treat everybody. Start out with the initial belief that everybody is God. This would eliminate things like racism and things like this that people worry about if you just treated everybody like a piece of the creator. Now, don't get me wrong. Some of those pieces of the creator are going to use their animated body to do wrong against you, to try and steal from you, to try and lie to you. And in that case, you have every right to defend yourself and to protect yourself from lies and deception and injury. So I'm not saying that because everybody's the creator, you can't touch them. It's not the creator acting. It's the person inside. It's the person who's got an ego acting, but they can only act on behalf of God. I believe that we are here experiencing life for God. You are God's avatar. The only way that God could experience anything outside of his will would be to create free will beings, animate them, and then let them live free will. And I think that the ultimate goal is that some of those might be rewarded in some way. Do I know what that reward is? No. I'd be lying if I told you what the reward is. So that's what I think. That is the best way you would find who's the good, who's the bad. You would put everybody here with the same inborn spirit, with the same morality, and let it go. And then the people have to figure it out for themselves. And then if you fall for little deceptions, oh, I'm a Jehovah's Witness. Oh, I'm going to follow this book. Oh, I'm going to believe in the church fathers. Then I believe that if you're just a good person, you probably get to come back and try it again. If you do terrible things, kill people, rape people, steal from things, hurt children, then I just think you die and you just are done. Your ego will never be again. You'll just die forever. Again, where do I get those beliefs from? It's just what makes sense to me, more than the ideas of the Bible, which don't make a lot of sense to me. And I don't believe that the creator God would need to sacrifice his son. The idea of needing to do something, why does God need to sacrifice his son? For forgiveness of sins? Couldn't God just snap his fingers and say sin's forgiven? That would be God. So it's baffling to me that the God in the book does non-God things. He does human things. My God does not do any human things except for every human thing. What I mean by that is that God does only God things, which was separating himself into a bunch of pieces, creating a world of magnificence around us, animating each of those beings and the trees, giving the code that's needed to grow a seed, to grow a human being, to grow a donkey. God did all that and then said, I want to live in this world, but if he just was the only one living in it, only things that could happen were good because God's will is good. So he couldn't do anything bad. So he became these avatars with free will. And if they have free will, then he no longer knows the future. Meaning, could we lose the contest to the evil? Yes, but God is ultimately exists outside of time. So he can end the story at any time and be like, well, that was a failed experiment. It was fun. I got to experience things or whatever. But I don't think that there's a chance that we turn the world over to Satan and he takes over. I don't think anything like that. But I just think that that's what makes more sense to me. And that's how I want to raise my son. I want to teach Mabby, hey, anybody you come across is no different than you as far as they are a piece of the creator, living life. And if I would have been raised that way, I think I'd be even more of a better person. I wouldn't have gone through the first 35 years of my life believing that Jesus was proud of me of carrying his cross into the church, right? Or doing incense. And I think that you're going to be rewarded here on earth as well in the way of karma. And I do think, and I'm not saying karma exists like people might think. I just think that the more good you put in the world, the more good you're going to get back. The more positivity you bring to the world, the more positivity that will fester. The reason that this world's in a bad shape right now is because there's a new 24-hour news cycle that didn't exist in the 80s. 1980, 1985, there was the 10 o'clock news from 10 to 10:30 at night, and it was local news, maybe a national story, weather, sports, done in a half hour, gone. We're in a world now where there's constant news all day long, and you can't even get away from it if you want because it's on your phone. So now what they've learned to do is by infusing the world with negativity, racism, hatred, black versus white, left versus right, Biden versus Trump, all they're doing is they're butting us against each other because it completely limits our God-given power. If you're fighting with each other, if you have two gods fighting each other, they're not doing anything, they're not getting anything done. They are battling each other and wasting time. So this world has gone from 1980 to now in a complete wrong direction because what they put out there into the ether is nothing but negativity, and we fall for it every single day, no matter what. Everybody's going to fall, and I don't even know if we can get away from that. They've learned how to control mankind. They can put it in front of your Instagram screen. If you're not on Instagram, they'll put it in front of your TikTok. They'll put it in front of your YouTube. Whatever they do, they just don't want you looking up at who is holding us all down. And that is these corrupt governments. How are they able to get away with this? Well, in my mind, it's because they sold you the Bible. And if you believe in the Bible, then you believe that this is all going to end the way the Bible says, which is God wins, Jesus wins, we win, and the bad guys get sliced to little pieces. The truth is that we all get one chance here. And if you've fallen for that trick of saying, I'm just going to wait here for Jesus, then what you're allowing is evil to run amok. You're allowing them to get stronger, to put more people in positions of power. That's what the World Economic Forum is doing. They've been doing it for 25 years, which is setting up people, Merkel, Justin Trudeau, you name it. These people have been set up. The next state or the next president of the United States will at some point be Gavin Newsom. These people that are in places to become leaders, and they're going to try and bring a one world government. When they bring a one world government, the one world order, there will be no more chances to get out of that. There's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to free yourself. You would be under control of whatever district you're in, and that's it. So we have a chance, and I believe that two of us could do it. We can manifest what the world that we want. That's the power we've been given by God. We just don't know it. They've given us vaccines, shitty food, shitty water, shitty air, shitty people, shitty government. And when you have that, you no longer have that connection with the Creator because all you're dealing with is a pile of shit. So in my opinion, we can get back there. We can. It just takes positivity. And it sucks that I have to go through this little temporary hiatus where I'm just going to get hated on for it. It's fine. I get it. But on the other end, and we'll do one more week of this, and then the week after that, we'll start talking about some of this manifesting stuff and people don't even understand what I'm saying. When they hear it, they love to joke around. Christians like, oh, manifesting is so new age. Well, you've never done things like the rice experiment then. You've never actually figured out that you're far more intelligent and impressive than you think, because you read the Bible, which tells you that you're born of sin, that you're disgusting, that God wants nothing to do with you, that he couldn't even talk to you. He had to send his son to be an intercessor between you. Imagine this. He had to. Oh, God can't talk to you because you're so rotten that he has to send an intersector so that you can talk to Jesus, who can talk to God. That's insane. God is not limited by, oh, these people are now so bad, I can't talk to them. No, God would always be there for you to talk to. But you've been sold a line of bullshit, and the line of bullshit has good things for you because you think the meek inherit the earth, right? You don't have any money, which is good because it's harder for a rich man to get into heaven than it is for a camel to get through the eye of a needle. And all these things that the Bible told you to be, you are. And so you think that you're fine. But then when you hear of evil things, you just think to yourself, well, at least God's coming soon. I've had so many Christians tell me that Jesus is coming in their lifetime. Well, guess what? All Christians going back in time have thought the same thing. So do you understand that we're all falling for the same trick over and over and over again? And who gets stronger? Evil. Who gets more prevalent? Evil. Who's taking over all these governments? Evil. The United States government is the one going into other places, setting up only governments that work with them. It is a net that's being spread. How is it happening? Because people don't care, because they think God's going to come back and they think that they're going to go to heaven. And this is a great ploy. It's a great way to take over the world for evil. Now, again, I don't know what the end of that is. I think God can just end it whenever he wants. So it's not like they're going to get very far. Maybe that's kind of the joke's on them. And maybe if you're a Christian, that's the good thing to God. He's like, yes, you were good. You did what was right. And it doesn't matter that you were deceived and believed in a God in the book that's not really me. How do I know that? So maybe you're fine being a Christian. But if you're making excuses for God and you're saying things like, well, yeah, he did believe in this or that. And yeah, he did kill those people, but he had to. He's a just God and he did it for the right reasons. I don't feel that way. I think that there's a right way to parent and a wrong way to parent. And I think all parents on earth agree with that. There's nobody who thinks that we should have our children skin or, sacrifice animals if they're late for curfew. We know what that would do. It would create a worse person. So why is God telling the Hebrews to go around and murder other nations? Everybody's always telling me, well, Jaron, they were giants and God needed to kill the giants. And if God needed to kill the giants, do a God thing, which is snap your fingers and they be gone. You wouldn't then order humanity, who you care about and you think you want them to be good, to go order them to kill the giants. Because when somebody murders somebody or a group of giants, they're going to become evil in their heart. We know that's true. So is God really the one responsible for all this? He's the one who told the Jews that they're allowed to take people from other nations and enslave them and to leave their own people alone. So God is a racist who had a favorite people who he taught to murder other nations and enslave them. And then he himself killed children when their parents believed in another God. He himself killed people for picking up sticks on the wrong day. He himself killed children for making fun of a man being bald. And we're supposed to worship this character. And you guys don't see the deception. I don't get it. It would be insane to find that character, read about him, and go, yep, I choose to work. This is who I worship. It's a test. Only a person who doesn't deserve anything further than this life would ever, in my opinion, would ever read the character of this book and decide to put their worship to that character. It's that simple. It's not a character worthy of worship. If you choose differently, if you think it is, that's fine. I'm just giving you my opinion, and I would hope that you would not go around telling people they're going to burn in hell for not believing in the God who I just described. That would be weird. See, it looks like nobody else has any comments for me. Wrong, Jaron. God was on earth and man left with your thinking. Hey. Huh? Thank you. That's real good. Jaron, you sound religious, talking like the world and USA is a horrible place to live. Shaking my head. This is a better time to live. Jaron, you can move to the country for great water, food. Bitcoin isn't. It's the worst writing I've ever heard. I don't even know what you're saying there. So why do you keep talking all capitals? I don't think we live in an uncivilized time like ancient times where you would have been dead by now. He. Wow. Jaron, that is great what you think. Again, you are not God. He doesn't get it. Don't even know what you're talking about. Yeah, I'm the one who doesn't get it, even though I've said how many times in the stream, no, I'm not God. I've never claimed to be God. I cannot animate the world. I cannot animate you. I cannot go inside you with my little God spirit. I cannot live outside of time. I cannot raise people from the dead. All the things that God can do, I cannot do any of them. So if you take that and go, Jaron thinks he's God, even though I just said I cannot do anything that God can do, I don't know what the hell's wrong with you. It's just you want to believe that. It's like, that's your guys' defense. And I know it because I was Christian. I know that that's what we are told. Like, oh, if people don't believe in the Bible, they just want to be God. No, I don't want to be God. Sorry. It doesn't work that way. Just seeing if there's anything else here. All I see is the capital letters now of this guy. Doesn't look like anything. Okay. I can only type 200 words while you banner endlessly. Okay. Yeah. Go on a Spice. I get it that you have a great love and affection for the Cretan, the tyrant in the book. I get it. So it's very weird for me to be talking shit about him. You're like, that's my God. That's who I love. The God of death and the God who killed children and the God who sent his son to be sacrificed and the God that taught humanity about sacrificing animals and wants you to wrench the neck of a turtle dove, drip the blood on the altar 7 times, kill the she-goat and then send him out to pasture and then put your sins on the she-goat. I get it. You love that God. I can see why. It's a great and wonderful God. There you go. Thank you, Cheryl. Lord said, rip babies from their belly, take the woman for yourselves. He also said, let the women with children be dashed against the rocks or something. So it's basically advocating for abortion for women of Syria. You can make fun of my grammar or typing. Yes, you are acting like a god. I just said I am nothing in comparison to God other than equal to you. We are both an equal piece of God. That's it. That's it. And if you don't believe that, that's weird. You don't believe God is inside you at all? Who do you think the voice is inside you? Who do you think your conscience is? That's just you? It's just another form of you or something? Or do you think that it's funny too, because if you look at the whole Pinocchio story, Jiminy Christmas or Jiminy Cricket, is JC. He's your conscience. Let your conscience be your guide. And only when you do that do you become a real boy. So the people running around who let the Bible be their guide are not letting their conscience do anything. They are believing in a book, and you will always be a puppet. That's exactly what the story's telling you. You're a puppet. And if you actually start to trust your conscience, that voice inside you, which is what Jesus was saying. Jesus said the kingdom of God is within you. To get through God, you have to get through me. I and the Father are one, meaning they have the same purpose, the same goals, because you can operate on earth as a human with the will of God as your compass, at which point you could say, I and the Father are one. We have the same purpose. We have the same goal. So God has a goal. That goal is good. The goal is his direction. The goal is God's will. We have every right to help facilitate that. That's our job. But you can choose to come here and type in capital letters and act like you're holier than thou. Because here's the thing. There's 2 types, and I read this from Eckhart Tolle. Eckhart Tolle said there's 2 types of people. There's 2 types of religious people. People who use religion for self and people who use religion for others. And if you take religion and you tell everybody else that your religion is true, that even though you got it from somebody else, and what you're doing is you're creating a religion that's about you. When you are laying things out for people to find their own paths, that's religion for others. So that's what I'm doing. I'm not telling anybody follow me. I'm not saying anybody follow my religion. I'm telling you to look into the religion that you believe in, to not just feel like, well, I was taught Christianity, therefore it's true. Or I had a connection with Jesus, so I know it's true. Yeah, and I've talked to Muslims who have had connections with Muhammad, and I've talked to Japanese people who have some Shinto belief or something. But everybody's got these spiritual stories, but we don't realize it's all the same God. Allah is Yahweh, is Jesus, is the sun god, is the river god, is Buddha, is Shiva, they're all the same, just different cultures, raise people in a different way, and then we're so smart, everybody thinks their God is the right one and everybody else's God is wrong, when it's much simpler than that. It's the same thing. It's the same God. Now, again, if people write a book and tell you God wrote this book, your job is to look through it and say, oh, did God write this book? Let me see if there's anything in here that doesn't sound like God. And there is. To me, there is definitely. So, again, just look into what you believe, because you're told one watered down version of Christianity, and not watered down, but more mucked up, that's just become a shell of itself. I would recommend this. If you're going to believe in Christianity, go back and look at the Hebrew. You can go to Bible Hub. You can pull up Old Testament scriptures. You can click on the Hebrew, and you can at least read the original. And when I've done that, because Austin has basically made me, but when I've done that and looked back, I do notice what he's saying. The English version is garbage, and it's done on purpose. It is purposely retarded from the original, like words that you would expect them to use, they don't use. They use another word to make it look like worse than it is. So the whole thing is a deception, no matter how you look at it. And to me, once I see that it's been deceived, or once I see that it's been messed with, I can take the step of saying, well, I no longer feel like God would require me to believe this book because it's full of lies and changes. So therefore, I will find my own path. Some people might do that, or some people might say, well, no, I still believe the book, even though it's been tampered with. I'll find the good and make excuses for the bad or something, which is fine too. As long as you're a good person, that's what counts. As long as you don't go into other people's chats and just type capital letters the whole time about a bunch of nonsense. That would be, I guess God would love that. But did Jesus claim to be righteous? I don't think he did. No, he even said there's nobody good but God, right? If a person claims to be righteous, he isn't. Yeah, I don't even know what does righteous mean. That means you're right most of the time. I don't even know what that word means. It's because I've heard of people say God has righteous judgment, which I'm not really sure what that means either. Is there a definition of the word righteous? It's just going to be what is right. Let me check it out. I want to check it out. I don't know what it is. Righteous, EOUS. Righteous, a person of conduct, or I'm sorry, a person or conduct morally right, justifiable, virtuous, feelings of righteous indignation about pay and conditions. Very good, excellent. Righteous person, acting in accordance with divine or moral law. Wow, I didn't know that. Okay, free from guilt of sin, morally right or justifiable, a righteous decision. Yeah, I mean, I like the word. I guess I don't like the word. I like the word better of just saying you're operating within God's will, right? God's will would always be whatever is good, meaning you could take either look at a path, and this is where Christians will come in and they'll be like, we don't know what's good if it's not for the Bible, and everybody's going to have different opinions of good. No, you're just confused. We don't have different opinions of good. You believe men too much. So when a man comes along and says, well, I believe that raping children is good, you're like, oh, this guy, he believes raping children is good, and so we can't just go by what we believe. Yeah, but you know he's lying. That's the difference. If you can't figure that out, I don't know what to tell you. That person is lying. He doesn't feel that way. He knows it's bad. Now, he may have convinced himself it's good or something, but none of us have to go by the convincings of another person. We're smart enough to say, as a group, it's why we have laws. You know, we're smart enough as a group to say, hey, there's some things that we shouldn't do. We can have free speech, but there's some things you shouldn't talk about. Those kind of things. It's okay to go that way. If you don't have vigilante justice, if we can't start this whole government over, because we'll never end this government with elections and let's clear the swamp. It's all a joke. It's all a lie. None of that will ever happen. It's impossible. The system is too corrupt. But what's incredible is that we can change it simply with our ways of thinking, simply by ignoring these leaders. You should have noticed that they have to have our buy-in to do stuff. They can't just start a war and have no buy-in. They know that they will be done. They will be taken over. They know that they have to get people to buy in. So all they do is set up these little deceptions. The deception coming will be that Russia drops a nuclear weapon on the Ukraine. And then the entire United States will be banging the war drum. And then at that point, the United States can go to war. They can reset the money. That's all coming unless people are smart enough to not bang the war drum. But unfortunately, people are very, very, very confused nowadays, and they believe whatever's on TV. So again, they believe they're on a spinning ball flying through space, at 1.2 million miles per hour. So they're kind of dumb, you know? And I was right there with them. I believed it too, until you open your eyes, wake up, and think for yourself. All right, I got to go. It's been too long. This show's supposed to be 2 hours, not 4. Much love to everybody. I do appreciate you guys being here. Everybody except for the person in the chat with the capital letters. Guana Spice. Jaren, you can't make fun of my grammar and typing. You're acting like a god. Jaren, exactly. Now you get it. And you talk endlessly because of this killing. What? What killing? I like caps lock. He is not yelling. He can't yell typing. He. Such an adult. Such a good person. That person probably considers themselves Christian. That's the funny thing. They're a Christian. And this is what they think God is impressed with. Coming to chats, typing in all capital letters, saying, you just think you're God. So do you see what I'm saying? That these people think that they are elevated because they believe in Jesus. As if God gives a shit. God does not care that you believe in his son, so then you go to heaven, and anybody who doesn't believe in his son doesn't go. Doesn't matter how good of a person you are. Doesn't matter how many chats you show up in and interrupt with capital letters acting like you're cool. If you think that's the kind of God that lives here, well, then you're probably in the right track being a Christian. All right, guys, much love. I do remind you, as always, do your own research. When you do, you'll never again believe what you've been taught. And also, please remember that God doesn't write books. Men write books. Hate to tell you that, but it is the truth. Till next time, this has been Jeranism. Much love. See you guys. What is tomorrow? Sunday? I think we have Glowbusters, but not sure. T.me/Jeranism show to get notifications whenever I go live. Much love. See you guys soon. Peace out. Love you.